Assalamu alaikum ji. Welcome back to another episode of Kahe, Kazi. My guest today was Babar Khan Javed. Babar is a advertising journalist turned lobbyist. Anything else?
A communications professional turned advertising journalist turned lobbyist.
Lobbyist. That's
first,
good.
First certified lobbyist from Pakistan.
First certified lobbyist in Pakistan. For the longest time, also the only advertising journalist, marketing journalist
Yeah,
in
so
Pakistan.
I'm all about monopoly.
All about monopolies. We get to speaking about the power of monopolies, about the power of giving, being enamored with the spirit of inclusivity, but also being reverent about the language that we use, about picking people up, about having space for people and yourself at the same time, about understanding that your hurt needs to be legitimized by you foremost, and you can be good right now and still have regrets about things that have happened in your past. What else did we talk about?
That's a good summation of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good summation. Babar Khan Javed, enjoy. Three, two, one. Babar Khan Javed. How you doing, Babar?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Very good. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, dude. So we wanted to talk about your latest career. So let's start there, and then we'll go wherever we go.
Start from the earliest and then go backwards.
Yeah.
I work for a media agency here in Pakistan called Z2C. It's a holding company for technology, media, advertising, Z2C Limited is owned by a fellow named Rehan Merchant, who I've been dealing with for about 4 years, on and off, as when I was an advertising journalist, the only one for Pakistan. And the only I'll rephrase this slightly. The only investigative journalist focused on the advertising beat, that was me.
And who was alive, right?
Who's alive.
Yeah.
Investigative journalist point of view said. There's 3 others, like they only cover the nice sides, because as if कोई unethical चीज़ होती नहीं है. So, I wouldn't count them as investigative journalists. So, इस company के लिए I'm their B2B marketing and PR person. So that means is that in all the agencies that fall under Z2C, उनकी client outreach, उनकी employer branding, internal and external communications में handle कर रहा हूँ. And then I recently passed a course that makes me a certified lobbyist. And I do whatever their lobbying efforts are.
What does that mean? No. What does that mean? What does lobbying entail?
Lobbying entails working with regulators and policymakers and researchers to understand to amend policies or regulatory frameworks in accordance to your commercial interests.
All right.
So as an example, आजकल PTA ने एक sort of circular डाला था, Pakistan Telecom Authority ने एक circular डाला था जिसमें कहा कि we're looking for commentary from consultants, researchers, etc. Even in industry experts, क्या आप हमें बताएं कि हमारा जो regulatory framework around Internet of Things में क्या होगा? So as an example, my personal opinion is, as a former tech reporter as well, कि अगर आप Internet of Things पे बात कर रहे हैं, then there should be an involvement from the Minister of IT as well. Because if you look at any doomsday scenario regarding Internet of Things, hacking and cybersecurity comes up.
Yeah.
And अगर आप किसी भी साइबर सिक्योरिटी बंदे से बात कर लें, बोलेंगे कि हैकिंग चल रही है पाकिस्तान में, मतलब इट्स गोइंग वेरी वेल, एंड बिकॉज पीपल लव लिविंग इन देयर लिटिल लाइक अपना सर एक होल में डाल के कहते हैं कि सर एवरीथिंग इज फाइन, ऑल इज वेल वाली बात. नो वन टॉक्स अबाउट इट. लाइक देयर इज अ हैक इन अ कंपनी, द चीफ साइबर सिक्योरिटी ऑफिसर नोज that systems have been compromised. If he brings it up, he'll be fired.
All right.
Not कि I brought it up, we tried something, ransomware हुआ, हमें payment देनी पड़ी किसी black Bitcoin oriented organization को, and then he got fired because he didn't put the prevention measures in place. If he brings it up in the boardroom, he will be fired. So he just stays quiet. So आपका customer data compromise हो रहा है, तो अगर इस level पे hacking हो रही है, Internet of Things पे भी definitely hacking होगी. Think of all the people who want to turn a red light into green. वो तो छोटी बात है. It goes bigger than that. If you have a smart door, if you have a smart house, have fun.
Smart car,
have fun with all that. So इस तरह की चीज़ें, like working with companies that commercialize their own Internet of Things products, figuring out what kind of policies will make it a conducive environment for them, figuring out what the MOC and all these other authorities want as well, and finding a middle ground.
Again, Internet of Things, unpack that, please.
Internet of Things, for the rest of the audience, is devices, hardware or any kind of devices that can be connected or manipulated with the internet. As a tiny example, very very common project जो हर computer science school में होता है या किसी हर engineering school में होता है, finally ये project की बात कर रहा हूँ, इसमें कहते हैं हम आपके एक ऐप बनाएंगे, आपके फ़ोन में डालेंगे, अगर आपका फ़ोन सैमसंग का है तो आपका जो सैमसंग AC है उसे कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. एज अ टाइनी एग्जांपल. या तो बेबी मॉनिटर जो होता है उस पर एक कैमरा लगा हुआ है, आप हीट सेंसर भी देख सकते हैं, सारी चीज़ देख सकते हैं, एंड यूजिंग योर फोन यू कैन मूव द कैमरा अराउंड. तो स्टेट ये जो मॉम्स होती हैं, प्री कोविड की बात है, जो मॉम्स होती हैं जो काम पे होती हैं, दे कैन ओपन देयर फोन्स एंड दे कैन यूज़ the internet to connect to their camera जो baby monitor के बिल्कुल साथ है. Usually it's one of the same, and they can move it around and check on the baby and check on maid क्या कर रही है and all that other stuff.
Right.
So that's the small level applications of it. The large level applications जिस तरह आप कह रहे हैं smart cars and all that.
Sure.
Your car is connected by various devices simultaneously.
I think
has integration simultaneously.
Up to there's devices that control the whole house now.
जी.
There's होते हैं, and then you could control that potentially, and then
बिल्कुल जिस तरह Nest and all है.
Exactly.
So in the most enterprise level understanding of Internet of Things is can be जो आपकी Google Glass के glasses थे उनके. If you're wearing the Google Glass, augmented reality at the head, you can see what's happening around you. Okay, for example, if there's a chip inside the Google Glass itself, and let's say I'm a factory manager at P&G और मेरे factory में भी sensors embedded हैं. I can see through the glass. It sounds very Iron Man-ish. लेकिन through the glasses I can see कि कहाँ some nuts and bolts is damaged, bearing खराब हो गई, something is running out. So as a good example of that, my brother-in-law, he used to run a bearings company यहाँ पाकिस्तान में, and उनका they had a sensor attached to the turbines of various planes, and the sensor would detect if the turbine was damaged or not. So instead of waiting for the plane to explode in midair or waiting for the pilot to go like, hey, engine number 4 isn't working so well, and you're still on the plane, and now the flight has been delayed, instead of waiting for that to happen, the sensor tells the main supplier, okay, this turbine looks a little off, come and check it out. The sensor picks it up. That also falls into, to a certain extent, Internet of Things category. This is sort of like up to debate. अगर कोई properly techie बंदा है देख रहा है ना, बोले क्या गलत बता रहा है, ना गलत बता रहा है, because I'm sort of attaching it to a lot of things, but generally this is the definition. जी.
Colloquially, you know, you've explained कि भाई क्या चीज़ है.
जी.
All right, so you're now a certified lobbyist as well.
जी.
But you also work with Pakistan Today.
I used to work with Pakistan Today up till very recently as their advertising journalist, investigative reporter, but for the advertising industry. And I had to step away because although I know I can be impartial while being part of the industry and also being a reporter simultaneously, I know that there's a lot of haters out there who hate my work and hate me. That will accuse Prophet of being favoritism towards some organizations and accuse me also of playing favorites. So I told the editor, he's an amazing, supervisor and boss to have. I told him this is the reason. It's not because mujhe chhodna hai, it's because people will say these things. Ab ek aise time aayega कि maybe I can come back as an op-ed writer or guest columnist and things of that nature. I'll definitely do it. Lekin abhi jo mera kaam hai, because it's such my work that I do, it has such a strong involvement with Minister of Foreign Affairs and Minister of Commerce, PTA and MOIT, that if anyone chooses, they can perhaps accuse me of pushing using my publishing contacts for lobbying efforts and things of that nature. इसलिए ये तो वैसे भी इंजाम लगाएंगे.
ज़ाहिर है.
तो but if I'm attached to them और भी ज़्यादा इंजाम लगाएंगे.
वही ना, I was going to say.
So I just thought to step back a bit.
पाकिस्तान में तो खैरी सलाह में आपको ये बात बोल देते हैं ना. It doesn't matter. There needs to be no substantiation. Just say it. See what happens.
So I didn't want to give them even more ammo. वैसे भी they want to throw it at me.
Yeah, sure.
They're aiming a gun at me, but if I say I'm still part of it, then I put the bullets in the chamber, right?
More, yeah.
So it's like that.
How was it though? How was reporting on? How was journalism as a whole? How did you get there? How did you?
So
why?
The way why and I'll start with how I got there. How I got there was I came. I was born in Karachi. Grew up most of my life in the Middle East. This is between Bahrain, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Majority time in Saudi Arabia. And in 2005, my family and I moved here. I did my bachelor's in marketing from a local university, which I don't want to name because they will want to use my name and say, okay, look, Babar graduated from us, therefore we're credible. No, I don't want to name you guys. You're a scam as far as I'm concerned. Go on LinkedIn and find out who I'm referring to. Anyway, and studied there. Then I started an agency of my own with a colleague of mine. Sold that agency, and then I went into a couple of brand and marketing roles.
Your marketing agency.
Marketing agency. So I spent between 2009 and 2017 working in agencies and brand roles. So that means I was either the client or I was the agency service provider. And throughout, I had to rely on one source of news around the advertising and media industry. And when I say news, I mean it was the only source I could rely on, but I never got any new information. I had to either source this information from my agency or source it myself. And then obviously I spoke with a lot of peers who said कि नहीं यार industry में कोई news ही नहीं है. Like people would rather write about the intelligence service than they would write about the advertising industry.
Right. Interesting.
Because you as a publisher, whether you have a print, radio, TV. Actually, this was 2009, so digital इतना strong नहीं था. लेकिन if you are one of these three mediums and you run any kind of news organization, entertainment organization, आपकी 99% revenue advertising से आ रही है.
Right.
ठीक है?
So you don't want to upset
It's not
them.
in your vested interest to upset the media agencies giving you the business.
Exactly.
So it makes sense from that point of view.
Yeah.
लेकिन ये जो चीज़ होती है ना कि journalism के circles में अगर आप specific circles में जाएं business and economic reporting में अपने आप को पता नहीं क्या समझते हैं. They talk about journalism like they're the most brave people in the world. And like if you're so brave, why don't you cover the media industry? You think they're clean, they're not corrupt at all? तो उसमें वो चुप हो जाते हैं. Then that's primarily where it came from. I was just like, I know I need this information. I know that other people need this information. I get this confirmation from everyone. हर कोई rumors चल रहे हैं. अब एक टेबल पे बैठेंगे Damascus पे with agency people be like, so Nestle का review का क्या हुआ? Oh, फना को चले गया. Then you sit on another table, फना को चले गया. No one has the right answer. Everyone's just rumors. That's how the industry works right now. So I thought, even at that time, I was like, there should be a publication for Pakistan that does investigative reporting and all that other stuff. जो नहीं हुआ. But then, as a result of a public relations role I had with an agency, जिसमें a role in which I had to essentially write the articles or prepare the speeches and prepare the presentations for the C-suite, उस role की वजह से क्या हुआ कि a lot of publishers from the region got in touch with me and they said कि यार ये प्रेस रिलीज किसने लिखा है या आपकी पीआर एजेंसी कौन है. तो आई टोल्ड देम कि पीआर एजेंसी नहीं मैं ही लिख रहा हूँ. So a lot of praise came from the journalism space कि यार this is the best press kit I've ever come across, this is the best press release I've ever come across. इस तरह की काफ़ी चीज़ें आ रही थी जो sounds good right now लेकिन that was after like 100 failures. So hundreds and hundreds of people saying कि ये क्या बकवास लिखा है. Me like, oh, this is kind of bad. Like if I go back to my 2009 emails I'm like, wow,
of course,
this was shit.
Of course. No, of course. Listen, writing is 90% editing.
जी.
Right? So those 100 failures, you've just been editing yourself. It's a beautiful thing, I think.
बिल्कुल. And ये भी and also like coming across this feedback where people are like, hey, yeah, you know, this is interesting for you, but it's not my area of interest. A reporter coming back and saying this. So either you can say, okay, nay, I will shove it down their throat and pitch the same thing over and over again, or you can say, I'll look at what they write about what clearly is their interest and I will match my pitch according to that. So it got to a point where I was more of an in-house journalist in that role than I was a PR person for that role. इन दोनों में फ़र्क क्या है? PR person, अगर आप, you're my boss, right? You come to me and you say, I want us to write about the fact that we bought 3 cameras, right? And I'm like, I know this is an unbelievably boring story for literally the entire population, right?
Yeah.
PR person typically क्या करता है? Sir, amazing idea. अभी जाके मैं Gulf News के मुंह में ठुस पाता हूँ, ठीक है? The in-house journalist will be like, it's not interesting enough. Can we do a story out of this? Okay, an average podcast studio buys 2 cameras. You bought 50% more. Why? And then we'll go to a bit of detail.
Angles.
And then we'll find a way of mentioning the 3 as an example, right?
Yeah.
That's what the in-house journalist would do. That's actually what a correct publicist would do.
Sure.
Not कि we'll find a way to shove it down people's throats, right? And then ये भी एक चीज़ होती है PR में कि again कोई client आता है कि again more or less same scenario. 3 cameras वाला example दे देता हूँ. So the guy's like, no, this is what I would do in that scenario, which I currently even do with my current role. I say to people that I can either create a very high quality piece of journalism that I will more or less write and I'll hand over to a reporter and they will fix it in their own specific way. And then that'll go into one publication, but it'll be read by the right people that you want to reach. Or I can take this extremely boring press release that even I find boring, shove it down Dawn Tribune, Daily Times, Pakistan Observer's throats. It'll get published. Not one person will read it. Not one person will share it. So do you want to tick a box called Mera Chapwa, in Dawn?
Yeah.
Or do you want to tick a box called It Had Impact? Choose one of these 2. You can only choose one.
Unfortunately,
And people choose this.
Yes. they'll choose the one because आखिर में it's about a feather in a cap somewhere. They
जी.
want to. It's ridiculous
हाँ.
कि हम कितना सेठियाँ हैं इस
Exactly.
मामले में ना.
Exactly.
It's literally like yeah, but my friend from down the street said कि dawn में नहीं आया तो फिर what are we even doing? I was just like, dude, how did you make all this money? You think
Exactly,
like this?
exactly.
You know?
And वो भी मतलब आप ये भी सोचो ना कि that press release it'll be so boring that even the editor who knows कि ये फना agency से आया है, he's like will shove it in a corner of a corner of a corner.
Yeah.
That if you can only come across if you just happen to be like you know जो जब आप नान लेने जाते हैं तो वो
Right.
newspaper में करते हैं तो that's the only time someone will read it. अच्छा ये भी हुआ था.
हाँ,
अच्छा, wow.
like if you go searching for it and the thing is this editor भी आप editor को तनकीद का निशाना इसलिए नहीं बना सकते हो because they're also just doing their job, right? Again, there's a party line.
जी,
They're just
बिल्कुल.
like you need to do this.
Exactly. And they know what the reader wants. They have the, if nothing else, they have Google Analytics data जो back end देखता है कि web traffic किस तरफ के direct हो रही है. And how long people are reading that. उसका bounce rate क्या है कि how many people saw the headline, read a little bit, they're like, मज़ा नहीं आया, they left.
Yeah.
Right? They have that data. So you as the writer, you as the publicist, doesn't usually have that information.
Sure.
Unless you ask for it, which most people don't. They're like, hey, dawn पे लग गया, end of discussion. We'll not check के who read it, male, female, age range, how long did people read it for, could care less.
Where they were reading from, no,
Exactly.
nothing. Yeah.
Could care less. So that was the role I was in, and वहाँ से जो एक respect मिली from the journalistic community इतनी strong थी that it came to a point where an opening and sort of pausing from here, then going a little bit back, I did try for a very long time for about I would say 2.5 years to get into the Pakistan journalism space. Okay, I had applied at some of the publications I just named. I applied there and said, hey, listen, I'm a agency banda, लेकिन I write pretty well and I like to explore this. मैं free में एक महीने काम कर लूँगा, फिर आप मुझे उस हिसाब से बाद में पैसे दे दे. नहीं, आपका journalism degree नहीं है, mass communication है, you didn't go to फलां school, or you're not related to this family or that family and all that, or आपका कोई reference नहीं है.
Of course.
मैंने कहा लेकिन merit anyway. So I tried in Pakistan and I was told no one way or the other. And then my first journalism job came from a company in Singapore.
Beautiful.
Yeah, a company in Singapore reached out. They said, hey, listen, this article written by a CEO, this article written by a so-and-so in Forbes, Fana cheese in Fortune, Fana cheese in Ad Exchanger. This is all you, right? And I'm like, off the record, yes, but on the record, it's written by them, but otherwise, it's written by me. So they're like, I think and the guy was like, I think you'd be perfect for this role that we have covering the advertising industry. And that was my first, like, in my head, I was like, there's a publication for the advertising industry? That was the first time I was just like, oh shit, ye bhi ek cheez thi. Anyway, so he reached out, he made me an offer. I mean, did interviews and all that, and tests and things of that nature, and got an offer from them. That was my first job in journalism. After being told no by many Pakistanis, finally got a job there, and जब वो नौकरी मिली, and when I made that public, फिर पूरी दुनिया ने हमारे पास आ जाओ.
ज़ाहिर है, उसके बाद तो होता है ऐसा.
तो मतलब जब मैं आपके पास आ रहा था for like 10,000 rupees a month, उस वक्त आपने कोई लिफ्ट नहीं दिया. जब मैं सिंगापुर पहुंच गया, अब for example, now I suddenly exist, and so I worked in that job. So from that point till date, abhi May 2021. 4 years covering the advertising industry. Just may say 3 years were the region, Asia Pacific region, and the last year with Profit, this 1 year that I've been with Profit, was dedicated to Pakistan.
Right.
Like in the 3 years that I was doing initially was primarily focusing on agencies and their activities in Singapore, Malaysia, and those APAC countries. And मेरे boss ये कहते थे कि जब तुम्हारा काम हो जाए, he's like, here's your contract. Like because I used to go to them and be like, hey, I like to cover this thing that happened in Pakistan. They're like, pause. They're like, आपका contract में लिखा हुआ है these 7 countries. Pakistan is not listed here. That being said, when you're done with your job, however fast you do your job, after lunch, when you have time, you can pick up the phone, call up whoever you have to call up in Pakistan because the time difference. Singapore 3 घंटे आगे. हाँ. तो जब it's 9 a.m. for me and I need to shoot out a newsletter, no one's gonna answer my phone at 6 p.m. So Monday की news would go on Tuesday and things of that nature. So whenever I had free time, I would cover Pakistan. And that was the only time in history that very prestigious publication ever covered Pakistan. It was through me. And there are so many haters in the Pakistan market because of that. आपने उसको coverage क्यों दी? हमें coverage क्यों नहीं दी? और जाहिल इंसान आपको coverage इसलिए नहीं दी थी because you didn't pitch me anything. I read minds. I'm like Thanos. Like what the hell, man? Like एक तरफ कह रहे हैं कि आपने हमारी एजेंसी के बारे में नहीं लिखा. आपने ईमेल मुझे डाली. Do I read minds?
But see, not even just that. That kind of wanton entitlement, right? And that kind of ability to operate with impunity, we're talking about crores of rupees. Plural, right? Multiple 6 and 7 and
Ji.
8 figures, right?
Ji.
It's almost like they exist in a different world. ये जो marketing
जी.
agency का जो landscape
जी.
है, once you reach the upper echelon, forget the upper echelon, once you reach middle points,
Ji.
they're not the same people as
Ji.
us. I mean,
Ji.
well, you've existed there. I
Ji.
have also interacted with them
Ji.
through my previous job, occupation. Lekin, really, it's a different world because they're not talking about this. They don't have the same problems.
Ji.
Playing with a different kind of snow.
Ji.
You know what I mean?
Ji, bilkul.
So it's not just obviously in poor taste because then someone like you who was now working for for an organization that would adhere to international standards.
जी बिल्कुल.
You're like, bhai, ek tarika hota hai.
Exactly.
Conventions hote hain.
Exactly.
Everything will be done
Exactly.
in time
Exactly.
with the process.
Exactly.
Not saying those organizations are not good or bad or what. Not
जी.
saying that.
जी.
एक तरीका होता है.
एक तरीका होता है ना, अगर मेरी पब्लिकेशन का फोकस पाकिस्तान नहीं है लेकिन हम कर रहे हैं एज अ फेवर और बिकॉज हमारे पास फाइनली एक पाकिस्तानी बंदा है हु हैज़ द कॉन्टैक्ट्स जो किसी से बात करते करते पता चल रहा है अच्छा इंग्लिश नहीं आती है मैं उसको उर्दू से बात कर रहा हूँ या उनको कह रहा हूँ कि देखें मुझे थोड़ी बहुत सिंधी आती है आप सिंधी में बात करें मैं उर्दू में जवाब दे दूँगा तो वी हैव दे आल्सो हैव दैट एडवांटेज थ्रू मी. And आप खुद देख लें since I've left they've not covered Pakistan. There's a reason. There's a correlation directly.
Because they didn't care.
They didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
They had no vested interest in making money off Pakistan. And so ये चीज़ समझाना to people कि यार 24 hour deadline means 24 hours. It doesn't mean कि मैं आपको February में email कर रहा हूँ कि फना Valentine's campaign पे आपको what is your point of view on how effectively this was done or how the creative was conceptualized in जो भी आपका जवाब आ रहा है end of March. And then it's people like you who are making us Pakistanis look bad abroad because I'm taking out time and my email is being tracked. Everyone, my boss can see my email, he can access it anytime, and he's seeing that the CEO of so and so agency takes 60 days to give a 100-word statement. Really, how busy is he? At the same time, now on this token, the company I've joined, the person I report to, Rehan Merchant, since 4 years I've been reporting on the industry. Whenever I've mentioned his agencies, it's happened multiple times where he's reached out and he said, for example, when I reach out to them and I say, insert controversy about your agency or insert negative sort of news about your agency. And he's reached out and he said something to the effect of, whether on email or phone, he's reached out and said something to the effect of, yaar, if you can avoid reporting on this, that'd be nice. And I've responded to him that it's out of my hands. And second of all, I've served the audience first. I can't serve you first. And he said, theek hai, koi baat nahi. People and their agencies that are 1,000 times smaller than his have shown the absolute opposite arrogance. आप ये लिखने वाले हैं defamation notice, cease and desist.
Exactly.
हम आपके घर में ये कर लेंगे, blood letters आ रहे हैं, death threats आ रहे हैं, आप कराची पहुँचे तो आपके साथ देखते हैं क्या होता है, इस तरह की चीज़ें. And on top of that, responding after 90 days. Rehan Merchant को एक WhatsApp message डाला कि this is like again 4 years of reporting career. Sir, I've heard about A, B, and C happening in the industry. Is it true or not, or is it related to you? At most 24 hours, my response आता था.
Rehan Merchant is an anomaly in this landscape, and I do know of him, and I have don't know if I've ever met him. I've not met him, but I've heard.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why he's as successful as he is. But he's also not. He's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason why.
Yeah.
He's just again doing the basics and doing them well.
जी.
And think about it. Basics क्या है? Talking to people like they're people.
Yes.
इंसानों की तरह बात करना and stuff.
इसमें क्या rocket science है? तो मैं लोगों को यही कहता हूँ कि the guy makes in a month what your company made in 10 years. So he probably doesn't have the time to talk to a reporter. Now remember, the one reporter in the industry covering Pakistan or covering Pakistan offhand, by the way, especially for the first 3 years, it was like a by the way thing.
Sure.
In a year with Campaign Asia, I wrote 300 articles, and उसमें से 30 for Pakistan.
What was the publication? Are you at liberty to say?
Yeah. The publication was called Campaign Asia.
And it's huge.
And it's considered to be the market leader in the advertising coverage space. So it's owned by a company called Haymarket Media Group, based in the UK.
Okay.
And they have, I believe, 6 editions of the Campaign franchise name. So Campaign US, UK, not Australia, Middle East, Turkey, India,
Asia.
and Asia. And I think there's one more. Japan, yes. The 7th is Japan. And India on and off would cover Pakistan, but because of the tensions between the two countries, and if an Indian calls Pakistan and the Pakistani picks up, both
flag.
both get flagged,
Kya ho
right?
raha hai?
So they don't cover each other, even though Pakistan would fall under the mandate of India, Campaign India, but they wouldn't cover them for understandable reasons.
Fair.
मैंने कहा, I'll pick up the slack, and the audience growth was even quite interesting. It wasn't amazing. We got through Pakistan, we got about 3,000 subscribers who were paying about $180 a year. That's about $500,000. So I was like, hey, if nothing, it covers bare minimum costs or whatever time I'm taking
But
out,
Babar,
right?
they were spending money to read what you were writing.
Yeah.
3,000 क्या 300 लोग भी नहीं expect कर रहा था मैं,
जी.
who would actually take the time.
Yeah.
But so there absolutely is a dearth for this.
हाँ. तो ये एक चीज़ होती थी. Then and this was 2017 की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ.
All right.
Now we're in 21.
Yes.
So एक तो ये वाली बात थी with this Rehan Merchant fellow, and then multiple points came where, again, let's say there was a controversy with his agency and I would report on it. He would just very politely come out and be like, hey, I'd really like it if people didn't find out about this. I'm like, sir, ab to likhna hai. And then obviously the exact polar opposite response from his so-called competitors in the industry. So credit where it's due. The new CEO of Group M Pakistan, which is considered the largest media agency in Pakistan, having met him and having known him through his other roles, he's a very decent guy. He's one of the best people in the industry
Who's
to
this
have.
person?
His name is Naveed Asghar.
Okay.
He used to be the former chief marketing officer of HBL.
Okay.
He currently he's the current CEO of Group M Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
Group M is the largest media agency in Pakistan.
Yeah.
I believe 40% market share. And Z2C has in total about 30% market share with all its agencies combined.
Oh, mashallah.
So 70% is in the hands of two companies, and the remaining 30% is everyone else. So that's been the experience with him, and that's why when I did coverage around Pakistan, it would primarily be, unfortunately, but this is the reality, people like Rehan, people like Naveed, or people from agencies that understood a 24-hour time cycle, or understood के 100-word statement में क्या लिखना है. मतलब मैंने आपको दिया है, I drop you an email 9 a.m. Monday, and I tell you that my 9 a.m., which is 6 a.m. for you, I need the response, 100 words. Literally used to call up people and coach them through what the response could be. They'd be like, sir, for example, अगर मैंने आपसे ये पूछा होता है तो आप ये बताते हैं. 9 a.m. the next day मुझे phone call आ रहा है, तो exactly statement में क्या लिखना है? मैंने कहा ये जो सवाल आप पूछते हैं at the nth hour of my newsletter, you couldn't have asked me like 6 hours ago or 12 hours ago. Anyway, height of unprofessionalism, no
But
concept
it's
of how
disrespect.
to pitch.
It's straight up disrespect.
It is,
right?
yaar, matlab, it's not my job. I'm not getting paid. I've got this indirect scrutiny going at the back of my head कि मेरे boss पूछेंगे कि why are you wasting time on a market that we don't care about, that we're not making any money off, that we're not interested in any way. Ji.
So a couple of things, right?
No.
Ek to, the way I understand it is, obviously post-colonial and diasporic complexes. You're brown. You look like me. Why should I treat you any better? If you were white, right? It'd be different, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. And the other thing, what informs this is...
May I?
Please. What informs this is, so I had a podcast with the brilliant writers of Lal Kabutar, Ali Abbas Naqvi, Basit Naqvi, right? And similar things.
No.
They used a colloquialism. It was a very good and profound analogy.
जी.
They're like कि रात को फोन आएगा उनको
हाँ.
9 बजे.
हाँ.
अली ये स्क्रिप्ट चाहिए पता नहीं कितने 10 पेजेस किया क्या सुबह चाहिए माइंड ब्लोइंग होनी चाहिए. एंड अली भाई वाज लाइक कि सर ये ऐसा तो नहीं है ना कि मैं खाऊंगा भागूंगा और आपको निकाल के दे दूंगा. दिस इज राइटिंग dude, you know. So what informs their disrespect of journalists such as yourself, even in that capacity, is they don't have reverence for writing as a profession, as an art, as anything. And the problem is writing informs everything. Everything is predicated on writing. Video making, photography, any kind of, all of it is. So they don't have the reverence for anything. मुझे ये feel होता है. And I know this is a generalized statement, writ large. I'm sitting in my own room saying this stuff, but really, आप देखो ना, they don't have reverence for anything else either. No processes, right? ये वही लोग हैं जो driver's license भी घर पे बुला के बनवा लेते हैं. Same people, right? They take all this liberty. Fair enough if you want to, but I don't know, act in good faith, I think.
Absolutely.
You know?
There is one fellow that is really, really nice. His name is Adnan Syed. He runs a creative agency in Karachi called Leo Burnett. It's Leo Burnett to Gora brand है. Adcom Leo Burnett के नाम से.
सही.
नाम सुना होगा. He's very like, you know, pro art, pro music, pro writing, and understands the art and all. It's just a matter, I believe, I think they distinguish between writing and journalism, and I think my hypothesis is, and again, not proven at all, is that these are people who have spent decades pushing journalists down.
Right.
तुम ये नहीं लिखो, ये लिखो.
Right.
अगर तुमने ये लिख लिया, तुम्हारा ad हम, you know, we'll stop your ad spending in this area. फला कंपनी के खिलाफ मत लिखना. And for a very long time, अगर आप Dawn News भी पढ़ते थे, Dawn या Nation, I'm not exactly sure which of the two. I think it was Dawn. Agar the story was about an Emirati-owned, I'm obviously sugarcoating, an Emirati-owned telecom company, they wouldn't even write what I just said. They would write a telco के साथ ये हुआ और एक FMCG के साथ ये हुआ. भाई which one? They wouldn't name them because of this fear.
That's very interesting. See, but those practices bleed into journalism proper, journalism generally. The absolutely horrible thing that happened recently with Noor. She was murdered. Major publications refuse to name him.
Yeah.
They'll name her, no problem. Noor Makhdoom's killer. His name's Zaire. Like, why won't you name him first?
Yeah.
He's the murderer.
Yeah.
She's a victim. Has her family not suffered enough?
जी, exactly.
उनकी फोटो आप लगा रहे हो, अल्लाह उनको जन्नत नसीब करे. उस बंदे की नहीं लगा रहे हो आप. What are you doing? खैर, अल्लाह रहम करेगा. अल्लाह रहम करेगा. But moving on swiftly, you and I spoke about an article. Do you remember which one? The one just made influencers and how many influencers make money. You want to speak about that for a bit? Like, that's interesting.
मुझे डेटा off the top of my head याद नहीं है, लेकिन उसमें भी वही था कि this is again when I was a prophet, but this was an article that came about because again I everything I've done, and people, there's so many haters.
Yeah.
But everything I've done up to this point in the journalism space has been trying to put Pakistan on the map in one way or the other, to show people that what you perceive of us is not what we are. There's a lot more going on in our country. And I'm pretty good at pitching, so I've been using the journalism as an extension strategy. एक चीज़ होती थी Haymarket पे, which I really liked a lot, which I tried to do with profit as well, which was a lot of the reason why I even introduced you to Ariba as well.
Right.
Was that I would have Haymarket पे, I would have a communications person come to me from time to time and be like, Papa, this article was really interesting. We're going to get you an interview with BBC tomorrow, and you're going to talk about this article. I'm like, a publisher is going to allow me to talk about my own article. Like we're not competing in any way. I cover the advertising industry. BBC covers everything. But you're saying BBC is going to allow me to come on their show and talk about my article and potentially drive traffic to my site? How is BBC allowing this?
Unheard of in Pakistan.
And I didn't say all this out loud. I was just like, and then later I was like, what the hell is this thing they're going to do?
Right.
And Voichi, CNN, and other places, not just me, but my colleagues as well, कि Bloomberg हमें उनके office पे बुला रहा है to moderate a panel. And I'm like, but there's smarter people here. Why are they calling me? Are they trying to take a box called Brown? You're like, what's going on? Could be. I'm just saying, but like, could be. I'll be like, मुझे क्यों बुला रहे? Do they know मुझे कुछ नहीं आता? Like, imposter syndrome जितना होता है हम दोस्तियों के साथ. I'm like, मुझे कुछ नहीं आता about FX and Bloomberg and whatever the hell they want me to talk about. But that's what I try to do even with the Ariba thing and all.
Which is,
so,
you've been, now, it must be said here, you've been extremely forthcoming with whatever, not just Ariba, Saif, right? Saif, Ariba, and Mariam, we're working on Mariam. I think it's a beautiful thing to see, and I would really hope that more people in my space, in the creator space, would be enamored with this spirit of giving. Right? Because that's what it is. It's just that. It's understanding abundance mentality over famine mentality. It's understanding कि अगर अरीबा को मिल गया या सैफ ने अगर बात कर ली तो मैं कम नहीं हो जाऊंगा. Imagine, both of them could make it here before you could, right? And none of that is a problem. Not saying this is a prestigious institution or what, and not saying any of that. All I'm saying is, it's about bringing everyone up together. नहीं
जी.
तो हम में से कोई भी नहीं जा
जी,
रहा. So
बिल्कुल.
I think that's a beautiful thing. But but you were saying.
But I also like breaking things, right? So like putting a Reba on a show,
Yeah.
like TBT, and putting her on your show as well, or at least recommending her to your show, is about going after those people who think to themselves, "Okay, economic journalist, वो तो मर्द होता है."
Huh.
Just to hurt those people, not negatively. I'm not trying to hurt anyone like that.
No.
But just to go like, अच्छा, मतलब ये जो झटका होता है ना, कि, औरत, you
And
know?
she's brilliant.
And the
Mashallah,
Saif thing
yeah.
was because once you watch the Saif interview, you think to yourself, I've got it pretty good. That was the point of that.
I've got a great.
Because
dude. Alhamdulillah.
if I come across people and they say कि यार मेरे साथ ये हो गया, I'm like, I want you to watch the Saif interview and then get some context. How bad is your life on a scale of 1 to Saif? How bad is your life right now? How bad is your life on a scale of Saif pre 2012?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then people are like, after watching the interview, I think I'm at a 6. I thought I was at 12, but I think I'm at 6 right now.
What's beautiful, and I would love to have him back on, inshallah. But what's beautiful about that interview is, he's a brilliant storyteller,
Ji.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And we had a lot of fun. But one of the things is that there's a comeback in that story.
Bilkul.
There is a rising.
Ji, bilkul.
There is resurgence,
Bilkul.
right? And that is the most important thing for people to hear right now, especially in Pakistan, because we're so trained to focus on the negative and on the hopelessness of it all. If there's anything he's not hopeless.
Bilkul.
Right? Everything else, sab kuch hua, sab kuch kiya, but he's not hopeless. And that is powerful.
Bilkul.
That's everything.
Absolutely. People need to know that. People need to see in Pakistan that nothing is ashes. There can be a phoenix out of that.
Yes.
वो phoenix उनको नजर नहीं आता.
Yes. I was watching a movie yesterday on Netflix. It's called Just Mercy. Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx, beautiful. And aakhir mein, he said, I won't spoil any of it, just go watch it. But aakhir mein he says, the opposite of poverty is not wealth, it's hope. And I was just like, यार एक तो ये जो लिखते हैं ना,
You're like pausing it,
just cry,
play it again.
just cry myself to sleep. But that's it though, right?
Yeah.
यहाँ पे, why is poverty endemic? Why is poverty cyclical and generational? Because we've taken away people's hope. It's not anything else.
बिल्कुल.
And the thing is, आप होते कौन हो किसी की उम्मीद, किसी का hope लेने वाले?
Yes.
आप भी तो एक इंसान हो ना? You think your hope won't be taken away? If you do that to people, that got dark. I don't know why that happened. Influencers, you were talking about the article. Yes.
So that even came about because influencers का word क्या है basically? Like people like yourself and Irfan, Junejo and others. These are people, you're all people creating content online and you're growing an audience. And in one way, you have an influence over that audience because of the content that you create. Sure. And then a brand will say that it's just like you being a TV channel, as far as or a program. You're just like Seinfeld in that way. Mm-hmm. Your show that there's eyeballs attached to, and some people are like, if I could put my brand in front, maybe people would remember it or love me because people love Kazi, so they hopefully love me, my brand as well.
Yeah,
that's generally how advertising works in terms of sponsoring an influencer.
Sure, yes.
ठीक है, तो ये इस तरह की industry के लिए there are various tools that exist. That आप उन टूल जिस तरह फेसबुक का एड सिस्टम होता है या गूगल का जो एड सिस्टम DV360 होता है, आप उस टूल के अंदर लॉग इन करें, आप बोलें कि आई एम रेड बुल, माई ऑडियंस इज़ प्राइमरली मेल, एज इज़ 18 to 34 और whatever the age scope is, and उसके हिसाब से वो आप बता देगा कि अच्छा for this audience that you've defined and they're sporty and workout and all those other things, for that particular audience set that other things that you've inputted, here's the output, here's a celebrity or influencer that you should definitely go after, right? So इस तरह के जो tools होते हैं, they're called link influence या they're called hype auditor, whatever they're called. These tools they pull information from Instagram accounts and things like that, on YouTube accounts, and then they pull information from the advertising revenue that the brands that they work with, and they come up with inside reports from time to time.
Sure. Okay.
And the inside report will literally say everything that was in my report. But again, because Pakistan is not on the map, no one covers Pakistan. So what I did was I got in touch with 5 इस तरह की जो platforms हैं पाकिस्तान में. इनके नाम हैं Amplified, एक का नाम है DEN, Digital Engagement Network, और एक का नाम है Wali. And then I got in touch with 2 PR agencies as well that cover the influencer space. And I got payout reports from them, about 10,000 payout reports from them. Okay. I did payout reports because I wanted to see where people put their money.
In Pakistan, in the influencer market.
जी बिल्कुल. Because just to cover influencers in general, then it'll be like a, Zada fashion influencers, and therefore they're making more money. No, who's making more money? Per user, who's making more money?
Who is it? Who's making
So
more money?
in that space, tech is making more money. So if you're a tech influencer who's like, when I'm talking about per user,
Okay.
per follower, like if I've got 1 million followers and I'm getting 10 lakh rupees, I'm getting 1 rupee per follower. But if I've got 1 million followers and I'm getting a crore, I'm making 10 rupees per follower. So I think the measure of how much you're monetizing per matters a lot. Because this is applied in the West as well. If you look at any of the SEC 10K or any of the quarterly reports of these Facebook, Google, Amazon, not Amazon, but I'll put it this way, Facebook, Google, Snapchat, Twitter, etc. social networks जो होते हैं, TikTok, social networks जो होते हैं, उनकी जो reports में जो comparison एक चीज जो निकालते हैं, they take out average revenue per user.
Yes.
Why can't we apply the same thing to an influencer space? We
Because
should.
हम कम है ना बाबर, आप समझ नहीं रहे ना, हम ब्राउन है, आप समझ नहीं रहे बात को, हम गोरे नहीं हैं.
So sweet.
ये नहीं हो सकता.
Fair and lovely hair, na, so you can use that all the time.
It's not fair and lovely anymore. It's
Glow and lovely.
Glow and lovely.
I glow. I'm not white.
I'm not white. I'm just hoping.
Just put enough spotlights on me and I
Yeah.
can get that same effect.
But like, I used to be so irreverent of people who are preoccupied by being white or being beautiful in whichever way, conventional or what have you.
Gee.
But then I befriended some people who are really affected by this, because they're in the acting industry or what have you, and it just broke my heart.
Yeah.
Right? It's not funny.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
even
yeah,
joke
yeah.
about it anymore because
It's because it's like, यार एक तरफ आप commercial कर रही हैं जिसमें product पहन के आपका your life changed. Forget about the storytelling that's making so condescending के इसके बगैर आपको नौकरी नहीं मिलेगी. Forget all that part. You are disingenuous to your audience because we know, I don't know for 100% obviously, but for example, my wife and most women who, consume content around plastic surgery and things of that nature, like इसने filling की हुई है, इसने ये किया हुआ है, इसने वो किया हुआ है, they can see all that. You're not fooling them.
No.
But you are fooling the masses who are like, before and after इसका ये है. So it's so disingenuous in that way.
Yeah.
उस पे मैं कहता हूँ that's the actual damage because people like my wife, they can spot it after
Alhamdulillah.
watching like
Yeah.
Gossip Girl and whatever they watch. They can sort of spot के before and after what did Blake Lively look like as an example. Pre and post board. मेरे family में Bollywood actress ने ये किया. There people can tell, but like the majority, I'm assuming they cannot because they're literally falling for these things and they're still buying those products.
Yeah.
And even if you remove, Glow and Lovely out of the equation, what about all the beauty parlors that are selling this service anyway? Because I tell you, this is a fact of life. There's a woman, she's getting married, she is going to go to a beauty parlor at some point.
Yes.
For the day of the wedding, 100%. वो तो होता है कि आप salon में बैठे हुए
लाज़मी.
आपके 6 घंटे वहाँ हो जाते हैं and somehow one person or the other, doesn't matter, male, female, the owner of the salon will find one way or the other to say कि आपका फना area dark है, उसको हम lighten up कर देते हैं. And because she'll say this in front of a lot of women, you get shamed and then you want to do that.
Yeah.
So it's not कि, and this is like a well-known thing, it's not like Veet and these Fair and Lovely are for the face. They advertise it for the face. It's for every other place that could be possibly dark.
Yeah.
So that's something that's not talked about, obviously, because it's like,
Taboo.
आपने थोड़ा sex की तरह बात कर दी.
Yeah.
So we can't really talk about that. But like that's the other problem, right? Okay, you can attack that company, that Gora owned company, and say, okay, you are making things worse. What about all the beauty parlors? What about all the other places where these products are sold? Not only that, at least they're putting it in a package. If play devil's advocate, they're putting in a package, you know what the ingredients are. But when you go to a beauty parlor, you have no idea what they're putting on your face.
Exactly.
And no one's talking about that. Why? Because certain people own those beauty parlors.
Sure. And also, I think
Again, something you cannot talk about in Pakistan.
No, of course. But I think what's also insidious is the mechanisms of this marketing.
Yeah.
Right? Abhi humne marketing agencies ki baat ki.
Yeah.
Again, they operate on TVCs, DVCs, influencer marketing again.
Yeah.
We have to come back to that. But what to say about this marketing? Ye jisne jo aapne baat ki ke, where you play on the insecure, because all marketing plays on insecurity.
To a certain extent, yes.
Right? So what about shaming people into doing things that are absolutely abhorrent? What about shaming people for looking like they are? A male pattern baldness, excellent example. You and I are both losing hair. Like, this happens. This happens to 50% of men at least.
Yeah.
Right? Where's the shame?
Yeah.
Why? Do you know what I mean? What's the
वो
problem?
जो victimhood and identity politics की जो बातें होती है कि certain people in the world have decided कि अच्छा, if you fall into these 4 categories, there's no such thing as discrimination against you. There's no such thing as being looking down on you. कि आपको कुछ होता नहीं है.
Right.
We're forgetting about the fact that
Yeah.
no one's talking about bald men. No one's talking about men under 5'9". No one's talking about certain things.
Yeah.
These people don't matter because you were born with this particular genital, so that means you don't matter.
Heterosexual
Because we have
males,
decided,
yeah.
we have decided that you don't matter at all. ठीक है, have fun when that backfires. Have fun. It's going to royally backfire, and you better have fun with that because you better own it when it backfires royally because it's going
Of course, they're not going to own it, but here's the thing. You want more? You want more?
No, I'm good. I'm
Huh?
good.
What?
Thank you. No, I'm good. Thank you.
So, the way I understand it is that they're establishing a false dichotomy.
Ji.
Right? So, I'm saying to you, Babar, you either agree with me or you're stupid.
Yeah.
Sounds stupid when I say it like that, right? But think about what they're saying. They're saying the exact same thing. They're like, you either agree with all of what we're saying about identity politics, about, all these beautiful words that we use to confuse the youth, or you're a bigot. In fact, you're not even a bigot. You know what you are? You are just as bad as the people who perpetrate those crimes. If you don't agree with my narrative, you and Zaire are the same thing. Think about that for a minute. What an abhorrent...
Because I've said this to people, like, बातों में कुछ न कुछ इस तरह की कोई बात आती है, मैं कहता हूँ, तो basically, आप terrorist हैं. And they're like, आपने कैसी बात कह दी?
Same thing.
मैंने कहा, a certain group of people in Pakistan, instead of battling the people they have beef with, which is the, certain forces, they will go to a place where they know people are not armed, and they'll blow themselves up. Because they're cowards, they don't want retaliation, they don't want to be stopped.
No.
You're doing the same thing.
You're doing the same
You're
thing.
going after people that you know you can go after, but you're not going to go after people who are actually the problem. अभी मेरे Twitter पे ऐसी बहस हो रही थी, कोई न कोई बात हो रही थी, and I was like, I am the son. I came from a privileged family. I acknowledge all that stuff. My dad was loaded out of his mind, but when my parents got separated, I've been since I would say, since 17 years, I've been in the company of a single parent, my mother.
Okay.
And if I even stepped out of line a little bit, my mom would,
Give you the business.
not necessarily physically, but she would give me the business. She'd straighten me out.
Yeah.
And I cannot think of a single person in my inner circle whose mom or dad didn't put them straight on line.
Yeah.
जिसकी आप बात कर रहे हैं कि men are all privileged and men are all this and that, that must be a 1% of a 1% thing because I have never come across them. I have had Sindhi bosses, Punjabi bosses, and all of them were scared to death of their parents.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, where's this Vadera thing that I keep hearing? I'm sure it exists. I'm just saying, hey, don't say I'm that. Don't just label it. हम भी कर सकते हैं. अगर आपको ये करना है, हम भी कर सकते हैं.
But that's what it is.
I can also flip it around.
Well,
right?
that's what it is, right?
जी.
We generally...
I'm good.
जो मुझे समझ आता है.
जी.
You want to make sense of evil,
जी.
right? नहीं तो आपसे हजम नहीं होता.
जी.
नहीं तो you can't live with yourself, you can't sleep at night knowing कि the devil's actually walking amongst us, right?
Yes.
You can't. So what do? Well, what you do is you take patriarchy, misogyny, toxic masculinity, women-hating, femicide. You use all these theories and you're like, yeah, so it makes sense. Here's the thing, buddy. Evil isn't supposed to make sense. Evil just happens. It's not beholden to you. The devil
जी.
isn't beholden to you.
जी.
You know?
जी.
So they do that, and then obviously they tie their identity to it, and they say things like, "यार, ये इन चीजों की वजह से तो इन चीजों को खत्म कर दो," and that's why all men. I agree with all men. Gee, all men, right? Because all women are in danger, because all men have that proclivity. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my great proclivity
Sure,
for evil,
sure.
right? Having said that, there's no solution to be found
जी.
doing that,
जी.
right? Because what you need to understand first is this is evil. You're not explaining this away, right? And do that. And the only answer is a conversation. And like you've said, conversations won't happen if we keep doing this,
Exactly.
right? All men are this, all women are that. Colloquially, इस चीज को यहाँ तक अगर हम सिर्फ ले आए कि यार, okay, let's just have a conversation.
जी.
Let's just talk to each
जी.
other like normal people.
जी.
Let's just engage a little bit,
जी.
no? And then they're going to be like, what's normal? I'm like, oh, fuck. Come on. Don't do this right now. Just, I don't know, man.
I literally have to message people. Yesterday, I wanted to ask Ariba a question that some people would want to cancel me over. So I literally prefaced the question was, I'd like to ask you a stupid question. So that I put myself a little down because just in case. But she's not like that, but just in case. put myself a little down. Then I asked the question, and she's like, blah blah blah. And I was like, thank you for not canceling me.
Do you want to? Are you at liberty to ask this question here?
I'll try to remember the question. I
Okay.
think the question was. The question was, I have certain people in my extended family who are there's a guy in my extended family who is the stay-at-home dad,
Okay.
and his wife is the one who works.
Okay.
Okay. And he said something on the dinner table once when I was hanging out with them. And I've heard women say this as well. So I've heard, and because he said it, it really like sparked in my head. अच्छा दोनों sides कह रहे हैं, तो इसमें कुछ होगा, right? So he said something to the effect of, and it's not word for word, but he said something to the effect of कि मेरा काम काफ़ी मुश्किल है, I wish I was paid, ये मेरा unpaid labor है, blah blah blah. So I had asked her, when people say this, are they looking for acknowledgement or they literally want their spouse to pay them? I don't understand the difference because I cannot hear what he's asked. I'm a marketer, P&L mindset person. I cannot hear the call to action.
Okay.
And I'm not going to on a dinner table be like, "Aapka call to action."
हाँ,
क्या है?"
आप एक बात बताएं, क्या कह रहे हैं?
Exactly, क्या कह रहे हैं? I don't want to say that because I can see he's getting a little riled up or whatever. I'm like, just let's let it go. Because I've heard this so much and I've seen it on Twitter so much, I finally asked her. I was like, are they looking for someone to say, for example, like I mentioned earlier, if someone says, "Aapki बीवी क्या करती है?" मैं कहता हूँ superhero.
Mashallah,
So, ठीक है? I put it that way. I think that's a way of acknowledging, and I brag about my wife's profession so much that at one point even she's like, "Acha bas ho
अच्छा,
gaya."
बस बहुत हो गया।
बहुत acknowledgement ho gaya. So I'm like, is
Alhamdulillah.
that what they're looking for, or are they literally looking for, "Hey, here's your envelope"? Because I feel like that cheapens the relationship a bit. I don't know, maybe for me. Because my wife works, so she's financially independent in that way. Like, for me, I was just asking, what exactly are they looking for? Like, what does that other person have to do, or what does society have to do for that person to be like, okay, now I don't have a problem anymore?
So it's settled.
So I was trying to understand that
Because the work is important.
Because I have never understood up till the point she said acknowledgement. So she said it's not the money, it's the acknowledgement. I'm like, okay, fine. I genuinely could never, because I was also felt like, जिस तरह आप कह रहे हैं कि you disagree with me, therefore you're cancelled, or you're bigot and all that. इस तरह का environment Twitter especially पे है कि अगर मैंने ये सवाल वहाँ भी पूछा होता ना, how dare you don't know the answer, therefore you're dead to us. So I had to preface everything like, hey, listen, I'm a heterosexual male and I'd like to ask you a question. Is that okay?
Yeah.
In what world can you? I mean, this is like talking to the Taliban in a way. Sir, मुझे एक सवाल पूछना, मुझे गोली मत मारो.
हाँ, मुझे मार नहीं देना. That's exactly
ये
it.
चीज़ है
dude.
ना?
That's exactly it.
I'm not saying Ariba's like this. She's a very chill person.
No.
But एक चीज़ built in हो गई है कि आपको ये पहले प्रीफेस करना है, डिस्क्लेमर देना है, प्रीफेस करना है, एनडीए देना है, सब कुछ साइन कराना है, फिर सवाल पूछते हैं.
The problem is, Allah रहम करे. The problem is this. The problem is literally, you say this, right? They're like, if you don't know the answer, that's your problem.
You're part of the problem.
No, listen.
You ask the question, you're part of the problem.
Listen. If there's a problem, it's all of our problems,
Ji.
right? If I'm a problem, I am your problem. There's no other way
Ji.
for us to move forward.
हाँ.
And to me, it sounds like when these people talk, they're not interested in moving forward.
जी.
Like, what the fuck, dude?
तो आपका पूरा identity is stuck in being a victim, and that's the only thing that gives you importance. So you want to stay there, yeah, you want to move us forward. जिस तरह आपकी पहली बात की कि there's the 1% that's actually the problem, and then there's the remaining 99% who's just trying to get by, man.
Yeah.
We're all salaried employees and all that stuff. अगर आपको किसी को impact करना है तो go after the 1%. आप नहीं करेंगे क्योंकि वो आपके डैडी के कोई दोस्त हैं, आपको कोई vested interest उसके अंदर है. It's easier to attack the people who are literally have nothing else to do with that. They may have some involvement in the form of like leering at women and all that stuff. Like, in the actual root cause that's being the violent person, the person who's getting away with murder literally, is the one that you're not going to go after because uski koi business aapke link, there's some interchange of business interests, or there's other interchanges of ke ye hamara koi family friend tha ya niklega. It's easier to go after the white collar employee. That's generally what it is. Like
Fair.
this James Damore ka jo situation hota hai US mein. I forgot exactly which country it was in, but he was a Google employee who wrote this memo where he said a lot of, I would say, what's the word for it? There's a word that people use that I find very funny because those people are hypocrites. People said that he wrote a memo that's problematic.
Problematic.
Right? When people say
problematic.
it's problematic.
It's
you know?
problematic.
Yeah. So they're like, he wrote a memo that's problematic. Let's fire him. And I read it and I was like, you sound like Talibanish. But at the same time, I was like, why didn't you sit with him and explain to him why he's wrong? Or at least have a dialogue with him. No, we cannot afford to have a dialogue with this person because he believes in something that we don't believe in. Well, let's remove him. You know, that sounds a lot like what the Taliban does. I'm just saying. Sounds a lot like what
the
the
same thing.
what are they called? The one in
ISIS.
ISIS. Yeah, I was gonna say ISIS. So yeah, ISIS does this, right? Actually, you don't believe that we want to, destroy so and so country? Then that means you're wrong. Beheaded.
Yeah, and then you're dead, and
But-
then you're gone.
But in
bro.
other places, like you're fired for life so strongly that you're basically beheaded because you've committed career suicide through us. Is what people used to say to me. तुम advertising journalist क्यों बने? It's career suicide. No one will ever hire you. And I go, कोई बात नहीं. I don't intend to return to the industry in any form or shape. But that's what it is. Yeah, when you cut people off like this, do you understand what the ripple effect is? As a tiny example, there's a difference. आप कभी बार ये देखेंगे Reddit पे काफी होता है. I'm a big user of Reddit. It's my favorite social media platform. Anonymous and all that. उस पे एक चीज़ होती है where when people write a statement, and you see this in English classes as well. There's a statement where it says, for example, I'm not hungry today. If I make the today italics, it becomes I'm not hungry today. Okay? Or if I make the hungry italics, I'm not hungry today. That means I'm something else today. Right? So the emphasis changes quite a bit.
Yes.
In the same vein, there's articles out there that are so one-sided. I'm like, you guys step back, think in the other person's shoes, and then read the article again. Nahi karenge. There's articles out there that say things to the effect of ke men are unwilling to mentor women because they don't want to be accused of sexual harassment. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Men used to mentor women a lot,
Yeah.
but now they will not mentor women because they don't want to be accused of sexual harassment. Okay?
Okay.
The article aa jata hai, koi study aa jati hai from some HR portal or whatever. One publication picks it up and makes a very big deal out of it and says, look, if you don't want to be accused of sexual harassment, don't harass women.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
If you read that statement, and then I actually thought about putting out this post, but I was like, I'll get cancelled if I put up this post, but I don't give a shit. What people are saying, what you are hearing, what they meant. These are three different things.
Yes.
A guy is saying, I'm not going to mentor so-and-so, I'm not going to mentor Amna because I don't want a situation where she accuses me of sexual harassment.
Okay.
Someone else interpreted that as, okay, if you don't want to be accused of sexual harassment, don't do the harassment in the first place.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. He's like, I don't want to be falsely accused. That's what he's saying. In तीनों में ज़मीन आसमान का फर्क है. What you interpreted it as and what you chose to not see what he was saying. He's actually talking about false accusations, and you're thinking about, okay, she's thinking he's saying that when I sexually harass her, I don't want to accuse me.
Yeah.
That's not what he's saying.
That's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying. See, but here's the thing. Loose, abstract language.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're irreverent of language generally.
Yeah.
Again, harassment is a particular thing.
Yeah.
Right? After this whole thing happened.
Yeah.
You want more?
No. I'm just looking at the logo a little different.
No, so after this whole thing happened,
Ji.
lots of people were like, all men, which I have said this
Yeah.
before, I agree with, right?
Same.
All men. Then they're like, if you ever see a woman in distress,
Yeah.
call the man out, get him away from her.
Sure.
Agreed.
100%.
Agreed, right?
Yeah.
But now you are obviously speaking in this one context. Distress is an umbrella term.
Yeah.
I could be distressed that I lost to you at FIFA.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There needs to be greater emphasis on direct, proper, accurate language,
हाँ.
right? वही जो आप वाली बात
हाँ.
बोल रहे हो, we cannot leave this much room for interpretation.
बिल्कुल.
We can't be like, so what did you really mean? And then do that, and if you don't want to be accused of sexual harassment, don't harass her. Who in their right mind, But again, the thing is, they're functioning on
Such a fear-first approach.
misogyny, patriarchy, and in that vein, obviously it makes sense. और जो आपने पहले ही बात की about the 99% just trying to get by, I agree with their belief, what they're saying in terms of radical re-education.
Sure.
Lots of men
Kar lo.
need to be re-educated.
Absolutely.
right?
100%.
I, for the longest time, did not understand the simple fact that periods, how painful they are,
Yeah.
and all those things.
Oh my God.
Right?
That interview you did with Sarar Khoro.
Yeah.
जिसमें he says कि यार अगर हमारे अंदर से निकलती
हाँ.
मेरी फट जाती.
Yeah.
I taken that clip and shared with everyone. मैंने कहा क्या amazing. Like
Khalis.
he said the thing I feel like I've been wanting to say but I've never been able to say.
Yeah.
Because the mood. Sarah Khoro is a genius.
He's a
Yeah.
genius,
He's
mashallah.
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
The way he said that I was like this is exactly how all guys
it.
feel.
This is it.
लेकिन मेरी फट जानी.
This is it, right? And the thing
I
is,
loved it.
and the goal is for all men to feel that and
Yes.
acknowledge it, and उस चीज को मद्देनजर रखते हुए बात करें,
जी.
right? Best. But on the other side, there are people that want to be divisive.
जी.
They want this polarization
जी.
because that's where their narratives of exceptionality work. They don't work if all of us are just talking to each other, because then we're all one people, right? Which is kind of what we are.
Who wants that?
Yeah, who does? Who does want that? But I don't know, dude.
I agree with the radical re-education part. यार आपके सामने हो रहा है ना. People are. How many people? Achha, it's I this is publicly on my Facebook, my Twitter, everywhere else. I'm pro Thanos coming here and wiping out half of humanity. I'm pro that.
Cool.
So, and I would love to do an experiment. Like I tell this to my wife. In my afterlife, because everyone talks about afterlife. में आप क्या करेंगे? आप wine पियेंगे, blah blah blah. I'm talking about Islamic afterlife.
जी.
Rivers of wine or whatever. I'm like, you guys think too small. I'm gonna go back to Earth. I'm gonna have an Earth recreated of exactly this Earth right now. I'm gonna go there in a Thanos form, and I'm going to go like this, and I'm gonna wipe out 99% of men just to see what happens. Not because I think it'll save anything. I just want to see what happens.
Right.
And then I'll be like, hey, I did the thing that you wanted me to do. Nothing improved. I wonder why. I just want to see what happens. But that's just a thought experiment that people think Babar's a genocidal maniac.
No.
But anyway.
Allah karega. But again, and that's the thing, right? When you are enamored by this narrative, and you're like, okay, let's raise the patriarchy, pittal shahi jisko bolte hain. Let's raise it all to the ground. Okay, you'll raise it all to the ground,
And then what?
And then what? Who do you think is going to climb on top? Who do you think will then assume power? It'll be the same people because of their fucking tenacity.
Yes.
Because they're kind of sociopaths.
Yes.
They're kind of sociopathic in that they care about winning more than they care about anything else.
Yeah.
About feelings, about happiness. They care about winning. It'll be the same people that climb on top.
Yeah.
Right? So, by far, the much better or the only alternative is, I keep saying this, just talk to each other.
Yeah.
Get past the fact that, yes, I'm a man, I'm cisgendered, heterosexual, jo bhi sahi cheezein hain. Yes, I have a beard and a penis. Cool, right? You can get past it, right? You can get past that and just talk to me like a person who at least wants to understand. मर्दों की तरफ, lots of men don't want to understand. लेकिन मर्दों के साथ I'm comfortable क्योंकि मैं उनको जूते मार सकता हूँ. You know, beat them up and then they'll understand. It'll be fine. With
one hit to the solar plex is all it takes.
That's
these
all
days.
it takes. That's
Adam's apple. You know, there's like 7 ways to sort of emotionally paralyze a guy, and there's only 3. Like emotionally, in the sense that you can CNS or then a central nervous system. You can attack it in 7 different ways on a guy. You can't do the same with women. You can hit a guy in the nose, hit him in the ears, hit him in the throat, hit him in the solar plexus, hit him in the balls, and then these. Our shin area is extremely sensitive for some dumb reason, and just kick them there. So you can like go like this, but women ke liye it's like what? Maybe the nose, a little bit of the ears. They don't have an Adam's apple, and their solar plexus are generally a bit more thicker than ours. Generally speaking, they don't have balls to kick.
Yeah.
So like evolution has made men more vulnerable than women, but there's patriarchy.
Yeah, there is patriarchy.
There is. I don't deny it. Like, I've always been an ordinary person. I've never been part of the 1% in that way. So when people say ke ye ho raha and all that, I'm not saying ke based on my sample size, I disagreed with what's happening. I don't know anyone like that. And again, when you root cause the problems, the problem areas, they're like at the 2 extremes. It's the criminal extreme of the 99% and it's the super wealthy extreme of the 1%. The people in the middle are just trying to get by. We're just trying to get through traffic on Shara Festa without blowing our brains out.
That's it, dude.
That's it. And then coming home and being told ke aap ye hai, wo hai. What the hell, man? इतना मुश्किल काम होता है लोगों का. And I don't know, when I watched the Kinjo Kurso interview, I was like, hey, she's right, but she's wrong, but she's right, but she's wrong. Some things were, it was like going to the right place and then the car crashed. It's like, there's a lot of things like that, where like you're going right, but the tire keeps getting punctured.
But that's what it is, right?
She was just slightly off.
But that's what it is, right? Like, and she's वो अपना काम कर रही हैं.
Yeah.
Right? She's here having a conversation with me. Right? 10 चीजें आपने उनको बोली, 10 चीजें आपने मुझे बोली कि आपने सही क्यों नहीं किया.
Yeah.
वो
My
सही है.
God,
नहीं,
that Instagram shitstorm was so hypocritical.
नहीं, पर देखो ना, वो सही है. मैं भी सही हूँ, आप भी सही हो. We're all fine as long as we're here talking to each other. It's going to be all right. The minute, and the thing is, people get off on this.
Yeah.
Right? People get off on this divisive language and just loading sentiments up
Yeah.
and then just watching them blow up because again उसमें आपकी ताकत है ना.
Yeah.
उसमें then you get to speak in a vacuum. Then
Yeah.
people turn to you and are like, आप क्या बोलते हैं? Why?
Yeah.
We can all think for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really sad because that interview was very well done, very balanced.
Alhamdulillah.
And what she said, it made sense in her sample size. But for example, saying, for example, Aurat March, iske baad kya karenge? Yes, if you look at the website, they have a manifest, they have a lobbying effort.
Yeah.
They go to, of all people on the world, they go to Bilal Bhutto and other people and they say, okay, these are our demands and we wish the laws were changed in this way and that way. Okay, you're doing something. I would, as much as I disagree with him on a lot of things, going to a stakeholder is better than going to no stakeholder who could potentially be elected, right? And if things are the way they are according to Hillary Clinton, then yes, he's probably next in power.
Really?
So, yes, according to Hillary Clinton.
Okay, cool.
So, in terms of how she sees the how rigged our elections are and things of that nature.
All right.
You can mute this out if you
Beautiful.
want.
No, it's fine. She said it.
So they have a very strong lobbying effort. They have a whole manifest. They have a whole effort on the side. Was वही बात है ना, because they've allowed an open platform for anyone to come with any kind of posters and all that, and because the media operates in its own specific way of picking up one poster versus the other, and because people love to misconstrue meri jism meri marzi, people have no idea what that means. Like I think Jibran Nasir का आपने quote किया था कि और किसकी मर्जी होगी.
और किसकी मर्जी होगी.
Exactly. So you know. Again, who is that person in the media who made the call to misconstrue this? And if that person is a gender that does not line up with your preconceived notions, that only a gender will misconstrue, the other gender will not. But when that other gender is the one behind it, what do you do next? Do you hold them accountable? You don't? So only one group and be held accountable. It's called something, right? It's called sexism. Isn't it called sexism when you hold one group to a certain standard but you don't hold the other group to a certain standard?
That is.
No, it doesn't count because that other group was, the first human being created and therefore we're wrong, right? So
here's the problem with that, right? Here's the problem. Identity politics generally will eventually lead to false dichotomies, will eventually lead to exactly this. Right, will lead to because again, like you said, they're both operating on extremes. So, एक extreme hai, the guys with the big beards who try to rip your heads off, and the other extreme is exactly this, where you're not even allowed to speak to them. You're not even allowed to speak at them. You're not even allowed to speak in their presence because they find you too triggering because you are a manifestation of all the problems that they've highlighted. And that's fine, right? And that'd be fine if I was a fucking tree. But I'm a sentient being and I'm wanting to help, right? So if we could, yes, you are hurting, but if we could just put the hurt to one side for a minute and try and figure it out for each other, throughout, like that's it. और दूसरी मसला ये है कि when you say gender, no, there aren't two apparently. There's like, and that's the other thing, right? Sure, you want to have that conversation. पहली बात आपने ये कहीं और से import किया है ये discourse, right? Cool, have that conversation, but have it, like you said, with people who are ready for it. Don't have it with 18-year-olds, dude. 25 साल की उम्र तक तो brain भी develop नहीं होता है properly. Don't have it with 15-year-olds. Don't confuse people. Let them sort their life out first. This is वहाँ पे भी सही नहीं है, लेकिन यहाँ पे तो
जो बंदा ये बंदा या बंदी ये डिसाइड नहीं कर सकता या कर सकती कि मैं डिग्री कौन सी करूँगी, मैं हॉस्टल पे रहूँगी या अपने घर पे, आप उसको ये चीज़ सिखा रहे हैं and you expect them to make an informed decision. Really, this person has taken out 4 credit card loans. You think they are the bastion of like intelligence and all that and foresight, and you're just destroying their lives very, very early on in a society that doesn't even recognize autism. Really? You expect them to recognize that? Really? You go on Google, आप Google Trends पे आज चले जाएं, लिखें पाकिस्तान का filter करें and search for autism, dyslexia, Down syndrome, dyscalculia, जो people don't even think exists, and एक और चीज़, I'm getting what the 5th one is, but it's pretty prominent as well.
Asperger's.
I think, Asperger's. And you'll see how much has exploded since 2010. 2004 tak data wapas jata hai. 2004, 2010 explodes. A lot of the explosion coincides, not necessarily, but somewhat coincides with Aare Zameen Par movie, which had a very good impact. Amir Khan, good job. And but otherwise, other types of awareness and all that. But even with that Google Trend data, उसके साथ आप PSL भी डालते, you'll still see autism is higher than PSL in some areas. Still, you have people who don't recognize autism. So that other thing that you want to educate them on, have fun with that, because you're trying to win some points with people in your own echo chamber, and it feels good, but it has no impact. It's literally the same thing as press release shoving down the throats of Dawn Tribune and all that. You can take a box called, I was published in Dawn Tribune, but your target audience didn't read it. So what the hell is the point? Just to win a couple of आपका एक checklist बना हुआ है, आप उसको tick करे जा रहे हैं, but you're not going after the real thing. कि आप जिस तरह आप अभी बात भी कर रहे थे कि there's 2 targets on the board. You're throwing it at one target. The other target is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. That's the actual problem. You're not throwing it in that direction. Why are you not throwing it in that direction? And I've come across people and I've called them out on it, but not publicly because I know how people react to it. But there are certain people who should have gone after category A, but they went after category B. And I say to them that I know category A is the problem. Why don't you go after category A? They're like, no, he or she or that group is not really the problem. I'm like, is it because your kid isn't admitted at a school? Is it because he's on the board of directors of a grammar school in Karachi where your kid is admitted and he can have him kicked out? Is that the reason? Is it because your husband works for one of his sister companies called X? And this is all the information I have on that person. And I'm saying all these things out loud. And I'm like, see, you're going after the wrong group. You're just making that group resent you and hate you, and they will not be on your side once they're powerful.
Exactly.
And have fun with that.
Yeah.
And reap that. That is all on you.
Yeah.
Because right now you may think there's animosity towards you. You have no idea what the animosity is going to be when they actively hate you. Active hate is going to be worse for you.
Jordan
You have
Peterson,
no idea what you're setting up
Jordan
for yourself.
Peterson said this. He's like, if you think strong men are horrible, wait till you see what weak men are capable of.
Yes.
You know,
exactly.
it's that. But segue again. You think journalism is dying? Abstract as fuck.
नहीं यार वो देखें, if someone says journalism is dying in Pakistan, I revert everything back to demand and supply. Profit, I'm biased I guess, but Profit Pakistan Today does a very good job with investigative journalism in the business space.
I would say, yeah.
It is subscriber funded I would say 50% of it is subscriber funded, the other half is advertiser funded.
Okay.
The rest of the journalism sphere in Pakistan is advertiser funded.
Entirely.
When it's advertiser funded, when it relies on advertising, and so-and-so company की फैक्ट्री फट जाता है, उनका जो केमिकल है पानी में चले जाते हैं, and the water gets contaminated, you'll never hear about that because it's advertiser funded. And for that publication or that newspaper or that TV channel, you as the viewer cannot say, hey, you're selling out. What the hell did you contribute, piece of shit? So I'd say to people, like, you're not contributing anything, but you want everything.
That's fair enough.
You don't want to pay for the news, but somehow you want them to serve you. How is that going to work? You're not going to, your boss will not pay you a salary anymore. Somehow be loyal to him for the rest of your life. How is that going to work?
And that's the same thing with influencers.
Journalism is dying in countries where people don't value it. And people don't value information. People don't value putting their money where their mouth is. Bas kehna hai. Like, these are the same people who do those 15 days boot camp challenges and think unhe bahut bada tir maar liya.
Right.
You went into an extreme calorie deficit for 15 days. And you did high intensity cardio with no muscle building.
Nothing.
Your body will bounce back even worse.
Yeah.
Shortcuts वाले जो लोग होते हैं ना, जहाँ shortcuts लोग चाहते हैं, वहाँ पर journalism is dying. जहाँ पर high quality things are dying. Ab TikTok and I don't want to say Clubhouse, but TikTok and things of these nature, you're not paying to use TikTok and all those things. So they're harvesting your data and they're using it for God knows what. And whatever happens at the end of it, it's your fault. It is their fault as well. लेकिन आप उसके बारे में कुछ नहीं कर सकते. You can do something about your own actions, right? Do something about it. But don't complain. The journalism is dying. Yes, it's dying because people are not valuing it and advertisers are controlling it for the most part. If I cover a story today about a scandal, the reporter in the other publication has to think 20 times before covering the same scandal. Because he's like, I have an advertiser-funded base.
Right.
Someone from there, not even from the company itself. Let's say the story is about BT, right? Even if BT is not paying the publisher, let's call the publisher Roti, and everyone can tell who I'm talking about. Even if BT is not paying Roti advertising money, BT ke board pe koi hoga who's also on the board of FG, which is also paying that. So everyone is so connected in that way that kind of this environment that people, the readers, have chosen to create, where they don't go for subscriber base or they don't want to pay for the news, is exactly what's killing journalism. Journalism is not dying because the reporters are choosing to.
No, of course not. And how much do you think, because again, abstract hai thoda, how much would they have to pay? Not a lot, I'm thinking.
Yeah, profit का 3,000 रुपए per year. 3,000 रुपए में आपके शर्ट बन जाता है या जो भी मिल जाता है, whatever you can get in 3,000 rupees. ईद की शॉपिंग की थी, आई थिंक 3,000 में मेरा न्यू सूट एंड जूते मिल गए थे. लेकिन पूरे साल तक यू हैव इन्वेस्टिगेटिव जर्नलिज्म कमिंग एट योर फिंगर टिप्स, 10 articles if I'm not mistaken a week. That's 520 investigative pieces a year, and you're getting information that you would not get from any other place. Pakistan doesn't have we don't have what's it called? Shoot, I'm forgetting the name. There's a publication in the US called Institutional Investor, which is well regarded, like the Warren Buffets of the world read it. Profit is as close as it gets to that, in my point of view. And this is coming from someone who cannot understand a lick of what Ariba and Mariam write. I don't understand anything that they write. They write very, very high concept things about oil prices and gold prices and energy mein ye ho gaya, automotive mein ye ho gaya. And Ariba's like, Bob, did you read my article? I'm like,
did I read it?
Did I look at it? Did I read it? Did I open the page?
I did open the page.
Did I say, Acha likha hai, and then close it? Yes. I did those things. I didn't read it. Or nothing retained, basically, in my head. She goes like, what did you think about paragraph 4? Or that analysis I did. I'm like, there were charts, and there was colors in those charts. And there were blocks.
Right.
And maybe there was a red line going like this.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think I saw it.
But again, someone has to pay for that expert analysis.
Exactly.
And someone's going to pay.
Exactly.
Right. But if it's the advertiser,
Ji.
तो फिर it'll be geared towards them.
Absolutely.
इतनी सी बात है.
इतनी सी बात है. There are so many scandals that have happened in Pakistan that are perpetrated by the largest advertisers that you can think of, from the FMCG to the telecom space. You never hear about them because they control everything. And they control everything because you chose to let them control everything.
It's not some big conspiracy. That's the thing,
right?
It's not
a big conspiracy.
It's like, yaar, the powers that be, really? Well, you just spent 3,000 rupees on dinner, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
exactly.
For one night?
So, पूछो ना, what did you do about it? Someone says to me, वही मतलब journalism space में जब था, कोई मुझे बोले कि आप रेहान साहब को बहुत favor करते हैं. I think you work for him. And like, he responds in 24 hours. He values my time. He's 40 times bigger than your whole company combined as a person. Somehow he finds the time to, send me a message or even not even send a message, respond within minutes and say, okay, Babar, I cannot comment on this. That's so much better than finding out 24 hours later that he cannot comment on this. Within minutes, banda bata raha hai कि I cannot comment on this. Abhi, it's a lucky coincidence that I joined around this time. But one of the agencies that he owns has been named the top agency in Pakistan by revenue. Wow. So people are like, obviously, hook and crook and all these accusations, they're aati hain. But think about that. That guy who was running the largest agency in Pakistan, that for the first time in decades in Pakistan's history, has beaten a British-owned company. There's a British-owned company that was dominating the advertising media space in Pakistan for decades. And a Pakistani-owned business in the middle of a pandemic beat a British agency.
Wow.
And no one is talking about that because obviously people hate on him because how dare you become successful before me?
And you're brown.
And you're brown. Yes, that's a big part. And also his name tells them that he's part of a certain sect of society that's not allowed to become successful.
Of course not.
Because how dare you? Because my daddy told me that I am special or important.
Yes.
So all these things are the reason why his company and a couple of others that I can think of at the top of my mind. One is called Digits. One guy, his name is Anwar Kabir. He owns an agency called Brand Spectrum. Other agencies that did have the audacity is probably the wrong word, but they had the sense that let's respond to Babar on time. Babar ne keh diya 9 a.m. tomorrow. We'll give in by 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Because he's a person.
He is a person and all that. फिर एक चीज़ मैं करता था वहाँ पर, which my editors used to encourage me. Singapore की बात करना. I used to do something over there. I'd be like, look guys, we have one chance and probably the only chance to represent Pakistan. When you send a team picture, I don't want the whole team in the picture. I don't want hundreds of people. No one's going to see your faces. Maximum 5 people, 3 of them have to be women. If 2 are women, maximum 1 other guy. Ab tum laro. And this used to happen. Hamari 30 articles usme the. If there's a picture of the team that won the account or did the campaign or whatever, if there's 5 people, 3 were women, 2 were men. Usse kya hota hai? The perception a person has in terms of what is an agency in Pakistan comprised of, it breaks that a little bit. Was it a bit of a misinformation? It was a bit of misdirection. I did that on purpose so that people would see us in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
And I would make this very clear with my editor. And we never said anywhere that this is the team.
No.
You're like, this is a portion of the team.
Yes.
And people have to choose who had the greatest contribution. You have a choice. Then this was like 2 years before Me Too became as big as it became. And then people were like, that thing Babar made us do, it is making us look good right now. I'm like, no shit, man. You have to put the diversity first. You have to put your women first. Even at Profit, yahan par, I remember when I joined in June 2020, I remember seeing a post on a Facebook group called Digital Journalists of Pakistan, which is now a closed group, like at the time it was a little public. वहाँ पर someone had put a screenshot of a portion of Prophet's website, opinion section पे. And there was like guy. ठीक है? And the lady who posted it, she had said ke, what is this sausage fest? Like opinion section is just filled with men, A, B, and C problems with that. I saw that. I mean, my editor and another editor had commented on that post. I saw that and I said, oh, there's an opportunity here. Reached out to a bunch of women in my network. I must have reached out to 150 women in my network. Just maybe 5 responded to me saying to them that, hey, listen, more or less what I also sent to you. Okay, listen, we're always open to take opinions from various people of various walks of life within the business space. Sure. Can be like anyone. Or within who can comment within the business space. Either talk about a problem, or talk about a solution, or talk about how would you solve a problem, or what you would suggest to someone. And through that effort, I learned something that is very, very obviously challenging, is that through the feedback I got, or the implication of the feedback I got from the women, was that okay, no one said this out loud, but this is what I interpreted from the conversations I had with them. This ke, all my life, whether it's been my dad, then my school teachers, then my boyfriend, husband, and then colleagues that I've come across, have found ways to tell me that my opinion doesn't matter. I have nothing unique to say, and my opinion doesn't matter. So now, decades later, when I'm a titan of my industry, and a reporter reaches out and says, hey, would you like to offer an op-ed on this? I feel like I have nothing to say.
Wow.
So then I would take out time, exactly what I did at Campaign Asia, just taking out time from my free time to cover Pakistan, and then having to still pitch that to the editors the next morning. In this same vein, I would, take out, let's say, an hour of my post-work day after the 9 to 5, speak to these women and say to them that, अच्छा ठीक है, आपको op-ed contribute नहीं करना है. Generally, आपका opinion क्या है इस मामले में? उर्दू में बात करें या सिंधी में बात करें, English में बात करें, they speak. And at one point I go like, what you're saying is very interesting. Would it be okay if I recorded this? And then they let me record it, because we've built a rapport and they've obviously heard of me from before. I record it, and then I'm like, would it be okay if I wrote some of it and sent it to you and you can give me a response? And I literally wrote what they said in obviously structure. If they said Oz, and obviously that's not featured in that. Sent it to them. They responded back, ye acha. And I tell them that I can tell you right now, with 100% guarantee, this can get published. If you say go. Then of the people I reached out, I think 5 to 6 women have said yes to that particular statement, of which, so 150 people reached out, maybe 50 responded. Let's say 25 took that phone call with me. And at the end of me saying, okay, this could definitely be published, I think it's a unique opinion. You have a very interesting angle on how you see this particular problem. On 25, mein se maybe 15 said yes. Okay? And those 15 appear in our publication. There was a point in time from June 2020 to about May 2021 till I was with Profit. If there were 10 articles inside Profit, and one of them were by me, my articles were the only ones where women were quoted. There were 9 articles just when men are quoted. Mine would be the one women are quoted. And I would make another thing happen for sure. If there's 10 people quoted in my articles, 6 have to be women. That was a rule I kept. If you're 5 people quoted, 3 have to be women.
Right.
Otherwise, the men would not show up in those articles. I did that on purpose, just to, again, same thing with the Reba thing, just to break up a few brains. Ke, ये औरत कैसे आएगी इसमें? How dare she? और ये बाबर का कोई इसके साथ कोई मामला होगा? Like इस तरह के जो जाहिल लोग होते हैं. So anyway, उससे क्या हुआ? उसका impact क्या हुआ? Okay, these women who were told one way or the other they have no opinions to give or nothing unique to add. Once their names came in a certain relatively prestigious magazine, and their colleagues, father, uncle, this, that, saw it, this is the feedback I would get. Babar, that article went up. Every person I ever studied with or worked with or this and that reached out and said, wow, I didn't know you were so smart. I didn't know you were so intelligent. I didn't know this and that. Uska jo confidence unko mila, they came back to me and they said, hey, Babar, are you working on anything else? Is there something I can comment on? And like, yes, this. Repeated, featuring them week after week after week. At point I मैंने कहा कि, for example, I say, Seher, I think you have a lot more to say in this particular topic. Do you think you want to look at this report from the Journal of Marketing? Journal of Marketing make a report chapa hai that talks about A, B, and C issue. Do you think that there's something to be said about this side of it or this side of it? And she's like, I think I relate more on this side of it. She writes a whole op-ed. That op-ed goes into Profit, sourced through me. Edited a little bit, tak it's a little bit more for clarification, but edited a little bit, goes into Profit. She becomes famous in her own circle. Pata chalta hai within a few months that Babar, because of that article, I was discovered by so-and-so, वहाँ से मेरे recruiter call हुआ, वहाँ से ये हुआ, मुझे नौकरी मिल गई.
Beautiful.
इस तरह की चीज़ें, this is the actual effort that I'm able to put in. And then there was one clear example where a lady, through the op-eds that she had written, she was called by a prominent morning show to talk about that topic.
Wow.
Yeah.
All
Because
right.
I had DM'd all the producers on Twitter, okay, this is an article written by so-and-so, and she ticks all these boxes that you like, but the topic is very interesting because it goes against this narrative in the business space. So if you'd like to contact her, I can I can give you her number with her consent and all that. Then getting back in touch with her and being like, hey, listen, some people are interested, like as if I'm her publicist. Again, I'm a reporter at Profit at the time. I'm getting in touch with her and being like, hey, listen, so-and-so Geo program is interested in talking to you. इतने बजे सुबह 15 minutes में आपको ये concise करना है. I'm very interested. I'm like, no, but stop, Sabah. First, we need to talk about what you're going to talk about. You need to be very specific. You only have 15 minutes. आपकी talking points क्या होंगी? They're going to ask you, they're most likely, because I'm a journalist, I can tell you, they're most likely going to ask you these 3 questions. And maybe your response would be, give me an answer. And we rehearse half an hour of my free time is going and coaching this person how she'll talk on TV. And then everything happens. She goes on TV, becomes even more famous, bigger job at her company.
Alhamdulillah.
So this is the kind of extra effort that needs to be put in that no one is... People, literally at the end of all this, what happens is, Babar को कोई मामला चल रहा है औरतों के साथ, Babar favoritism करता है औरतों को, and Babar is indirectly sexist because he's not favoring the men. I'm like, the men are being quoted. If they're not responding in time, how's that my fault?
How is that your fault?
So,
That's
and
interesting.
I do this, for example, if I'm reaching out to, let's say, if I'm doing a story, the sexist thing that I do, let's put it out there. Okay? And I've said this publicly as well. The sexist thing that I do is that I acknowledge that statistically speaking, if you are a father, statistically speaking, when you come home from work, your brain doesn't jump into fatherhood mode. Your brain, statistically speaking, your brain jumps into, ab maine kaam kar liya, I'm relaxing, I need my beer, I need my things to unwind and all that. Statistically speaking, if you are a working mother, when you come back from work, you jump immediately into mother mode. Yes?
There's no time.
Statistically speaking. I'm not being generalistic. No. Oh my God, some people cancel me over this as well. Anyway, because I've said this on other podcasts as well. So keeping that in mind, what I have done in my entire journalism career, whether it's in Singapore, Dubai, or in Pakistan, has been that, let's say I send an email out to 5 women and 5 men on Monday, say I'm working on a story, I'd like a response by Wednesday. Because the article is going to be given to the editor on Friday, it's going to be published on the next Monday. Okay? That's generally the cycle. Even Profit by year cycle. Okay? I will tell the man you have till Wednesday, and I'll tell the woman you have till Thursday. Because I know she's still working when the time she comes home. She's still on the drive home. She's thinking ke ab isko sunana, iska khana dena, iska dena.
Homework.
Statistically speaking, I'm not saying fathers don't do this, but I would say 51% of fathers don't do what I'm talking about, or don't think in that direction as a default. Maybe they'll think about it when they get home and someone tells them, but they don't default think that way. Again, I know a lot of fathers. I'm not a father myself. I know a lot of fathers.
I understand.
ये कहना पड़ता है क्योंकि मर्द भी आपको कैंसिल कर देते हैं इस मामले में. नहीं, I'm a dedicated father. I'm like, ठीक है यार, you must be like, and you know, what part of statistically speaking was hard? Anyway, so because of that, giving women another 24 hours or another 72 hours, or even giving, in some cases, I'm emailing you on 1st of July, and I'm telling you the article is going to, and the article that I'm emailing you for is going to go on the 15th. So you have a full 2 weeks to give me a response.
Inshallah, yeah.
Giving women more time is not like some people have taken this as, oh, so you're saying that they're so stupid they need more time. No, they are so busy.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Yeah, because people need to need to weaponize everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, they're so busy that they actually have to be provided more time, because if you don't, then they don't. If I don't give them that time, which I know I can, I'm being disingenuous with them. I'm not being as true to them as I possibly can be, and I'm giving them a chance. It's the same ish concept of that जो US में होता है कि आप uska naam bhul raha hu, but like how they kind of give the first preference to one particular type of race.
Affirmative action.
Gee, it's
Yeah.
as close as I can get it within my capacity. Again, I would run this by my editor. I'd be like, hey, yes, it's not an accident. Okay, 6 of the 10 people quoted are women. It's not. It's purposely done.
But this is
you
all
have
you can
this
do.
everywhere in the world where you have to push these people in this way, and then they have enough confidence to do it themselves. Because this is what's happened. People have reached out. Big agencies के female CEOs reached out to them for a comment. आप मुझे WhatsApp भेज दें, आप मुझे voice भेज दें या email भेज दें. It's come to a point, at least at the time I was leaving, it came to a point where they would email me and they would literally write, Babar, if there's anything wrong with this, fix it. If there's anything you think it should be instead, you can fix it as well. So I would fix it and then send it back to them like, Babar, you're a publicist, you should be a publicist, and send it back. So putting those statements in that have a lot of value, it gives them a lot of credibility, it builds their brand, things of that nature. उनको confidence boost मिल जाता है, if nothing else. कि देखो, I wrote something, and for the first time in my 30 years or 40 years of existence, a man said to me that what you have to say is valuable. And then on top of that, once it was published, then those people who told me I have nothing to say, they were like, hey, she used to work for us. And she's like, no, bitch, you're the one who told me I have nothing to say. Aap kyun keh rahe? Why are you taking credit for me? Babar is the reason.
Yeah.
But I tell them that don't put me in front. Keep me, because once you do that, people will be like, oh, so there's a man behind you.
No, but
so I
here's
tell
the
them
thing, right?
keep me in the background. Don't even bring it up. That Babar coached me and all that stuff. I tell them don't mention all this.
So that's beautiful. But here's the thing, right? The problem that they would highlight here is that you're going above and beyond.
Sure.
And I suppose people like you need to. Right?
Yeah.
That's the only solution to this problem. Pragmatically speaking, matlab,
जी.
ye karna padega.
Ji.
You think more people would do that though?
No, they wouldn't. But the thing is, कि whenever people have complained about this, in the past, I'm like, ठीक है, आपको अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, आप एक काम करना, go to the other advertising journalist.
You're using your monopoly now? That's good. That's good.
आपको अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, go to the, like, people have reached out and they said कि Babar, we did this campaign and look how amazing it is, creatives का ये है, वो है, and this is brand people reaching out, by the way, not the agency people. I'm like, just show me. I tell them this is someone you and I have in common, and he's from the industry. I need him to confirm to me that you've paid your creative agency. Once I have that confirmation, then I'll write the article. आप नहीं कर सकते ये चीज़, and go to the other advertising journalist. Have fun pitching to campaign Asia or branding in Asia, who would not even look at you twice. But when I was there, they used to look at you twice. Because they got that, they felt that sort of जो buzz मिलता है when you get PR from these tier 1 publishers, they got that. So they're like, Babar से हमारी दोस्ती है. I'm like, no man, you built a reputation in the market for not paying people on time. You've been blacklisted on Pakistan Broadcasters Association की website जो है, आप blacklist उसमें हुए, या whatever that word is that they use on that. And so I know that you're burning people at the back end. I cannot, in good conscience, write an article about you, knowing that you burn people behind the scenes. I just can't do that. And if you don't like it, go to the other person. This is just the way it is, because Prophet told me that you have to write maximum 3 articles a week.
Maximum.
Because they have to go in the magazine. Feature stories जो होते हैं हमारी. News हम लिख सकते थे, which was perfectly fine. Every day I could write news. But a campaign being launched is not news as far as I'm concerned. Something unique about that campaign being launched, that could possibly be news.
But then the concept of PR comes in. Babar, I'll be right back.
Ji.
Do you want me to get you another Red Bull?
No, I'm good. Thank you very
Water?
much. Ji, I'm good.
Yeah?
Ji.
What you were saying about people not wanting to break ties with you because they want that PR. 2 questions. A, what do you say about the rendition of PR as it exists? Because हमने पहले भी बात की कि सेठिया बिजनेस होता है, तो उनका PR भी बड़ा एक स्पेसिफिक किस्म का होता है. It's not about, oh, come check out the good work that I'm doing. It's more like वही जो बात है. It's more like, this is what you have to say. It's these 3 lines and just put them in, preferably on the front page, but just put them in wherever. How have you, because obviously you were saying that you've एक तरीके से alhamdulillah you have a monopoly and you've employed that to your favor in that कि भाई नहीं मैं तो ये नहीं करूँगा किसी और से करवा ले. But you know people can be really persuasive in Pakistan. So how do you deal with that?
You'll have to give me an example, because no one's been able to sway me in one direction or the other. You mean like when I was a journalist?
Oh no, I don't have an example. I'm just saying, so you've dealt with it in this way only.
Sure. Even when I've been a publicist, even as I am now, when people come and they say this is the way we want to do our PR rollout and all that, I have the right through my boss, Rehan, to disagree. He has made it very, very clear. If you think something is dumb or an approach is dumb, you have to say it out loud.
Yeah.
You have to tell them that this will not work. And you'll tell them as well that, okay, we'll do it in this way, but trust me, it will not have any impact. Can you write over here that you understand that it'll have no impact?
And sign it.
Because when it has no impact, you'll conveniently blame me. Because आपको और कोई काम नहीं है. Idea आपका है, execution आपकी है, strategy आपकी है. If it goes wrong, it's somehow my fault. आप engine बना रहे हैं, आप गाड़ी भी चला रहे हैं, आप track भी बना रहे हैं, लेकिन if you crash the car, somehow it's my fault. So just conveniently finding a scapegoat. Again, it's the same thing, exact same thing that we're talking about over and over again. You went after the most convenient target. You're not going after the main thing. Maybe something was wrong with the way I thought about it or whatever. So this happened recently with an article जिसमें एक press release हमने निकाली थी जिसमें I let the client do their way first, and they got it published in a couple of random publications, whatever they had to do. They ticked all their boxes, and they're like, "यार कोई uptick नहीं आया." And I'm like replying to my own message on WhatsApp thread. As I said, 2 weeks ago, this will have jhak impact on your ROI.
Aforementioned.
And I'm like, now watch what happens when I make this thing roll out. And then I rolled out something else that was balanced on purpose. That brought up an elephant in the room on purpose. That they're like, ye kyun likha usne? Like, why did that reporter write this thing in the article? And I'm like, because if we don't address it, someone else will. And when that person addresses it, they'll blow it out of proportion.
And that'll be that.
As an example. Kist Pay ka suna aapne? Kist Pay is a fintech solution that's been around for like a year in Pakistan. It's basically it's called buy now pay later. If you are on Daraz and you're checking out, they'll give you an option called, I don't know if this is in yet, but I'm giving that example. You're checking out and it says Visa, MasterCard and all that. And then there's an option called Kist Pay. You click on that, it tells you that Kist Pay will pay 50% right now to Daraz. You pay 50% to Daraz, and you can pay us as Kist Pay back after 90 days, whatever. BNPL is what the abbreviation of buy now pay later is. अगर आप BNPL पे थोड़ा स्टडी करें, आपको ये पता चलेगा कि ज़्यादा accusation against BNPL होता है कि you're a debt trap. पूरी दुनिया में regulators are going after BNPL solutions left, right, and center. If you are a BNPL solution provider in Pakistan and you have to do a media interview, if you don't bring it up first, someone else will.
And then
because in that person's pocket, the journalist जो आपके सामने बैठा हुआ है, he's got something in it. He's got a bag down here which has a shotgun inside it called your debt trap. As he's pulling it out, once you say, some people call it a debt trap. Once he pulls it out, it's a knife. He's like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
This was my ammo. This was my, I was gonna go like this, and he's gonna feel like, oh shoot, ये मेरे साथ क्या हो रहा है? I brought a knife, a pencil हो गया basically. Well, if it John Wick's hands, it's something else. But it's a pencil.
It's an important
stabbing
tool.
Exactly. So if you bring it up first, if you address the elephant in the room, then people are like, oh. Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But, this counter-argument is also a good point. And now I'll move on.
But, dekho, for that kind of preemptive thinking, for that kind of forward thinking or, proactivity, again, you would have to give the other person the time of day. Agar aap itne upar chal rahe ho, कि आपकी, when you fart, it comes out as rainbows. How are you going to have that kind of foresight? Do you know what I mean?
So, what I've done in that vein is, ek to main apne taraf, jo Z2C के या जो भी other agency जो clients होते हैं, they come up and they say we'd like to do corporate PR in a specific way. I give them the approach that is there's an effective approach and then there's an approach. So I tell them the effective approach. If they disagree with me, I'm able to because a lot of times क्या होता है, there's a lot of things that are risk aversion, right? People are like, I don't want to do Coke Studio. No, I don't want to do this until someone else does it. Coke Studio हो गया, आपके सामने 40 more copycat examples है, right? Because they saw that one thing as a basic success. हमारा investment नहीं डूबेगा. तो वो वाले mindset की वजह, which is great. Everyone is prudential in their investment strategy. लेकिन एक चीज़ होती है फट्टू और एक चीज़ होती है prudential. तो हमारी ज़्यादा फट्टू वाला scene है. तो इसमें भी what I've been able to show them is देखें, since I've come on board, this publication that doesn't even cover India and China. There's a publication in the US called Media Post. I'll just say it actually, and sort of beating around it. There's a publication in the US called Media Post that only covers the US or North America.
Okay.
That is focused on the advertising in the media industry. That covers the US, which is, last I checked, it's probably about $150 billion are being spent in the US on media and advertising.
All right.
Last I checked. Yeah. Again, it could be more. So, and again, Media Post based in New York. Media Post based in New York covers the $150 billion US advertising industry. Canada का भी कुछ ना कुछ होगा in the same, I would say $75 billion range.
Sure, yeah.
ठीक है, got it? ठीक है. They will not cover China, which is about another $100 billion, and they will not cover India, which is about another $100 billion.
Sahi.
Despite their size, but somehow in the past 3 months they've covered 4 or 5 times. They've covered Pakistani agencies, all under me. They're under Z2C, and I'm the one who did the pitches.
Okay.
Why did they cover them? The pitch was good, aligned with what they did, so I'm mostly bragging about myself now. But the other reason was that it was in line with what they were already writing about, or in line with a curiosity that their audiences had. So going into those publications, going into the comments section, pulling out 40 different comments, screenshotting them, putting them into a presentation, sticking them into a PDF or whatever, calling up the editor and be like, hey, Joe, this is Babar from Pakistan. Again, I'm calling at 6 p.m. my time. I'm off the clock of work. It's 9 a.m. New York time for him. Calling him on my time, be like, Joe, it's Babar. You may remember me from Camp Asia. Oh, hi, blah, 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 budi baat ho gayi. And I'd like to show you a screen share for 15 minutes if it's okay. Screen share on a Zoom call. These are the comments. People are asking about, yeah, but what about this? What about this? What about this? And because your market is so advanced, you don't talk about those topics anymore. I understand why you're not talking about this thing that everyone's asking about. But because my market is a little bit less advanced, here's a press release or a rollout that I'd like to share with you, which you may be interested in. He gets very interested, it gets published. A little bit of research.
Yes.
Not rocket science. Now, keeping in mind, $150 billion industry versus Pakistan's $400 million industry.
400 million.
Why would they cover Pakistan? But somehow they're doing it because the pitch context makes sense.
Yes.
So there's a framework that I'm following that's allowing these pitches to be successful with one of the top worldwide publishing platforms around the advertising and media
Mashallah.
industry.
Yeah.
I've done the same thing with Camp Asia. Obviously, I'm an ex-alumni, so I know the biases. I know what they like, what they like, and what they don't like.
Right.
And इस तरह के 10 और publications है that have picked up our stories, and I'm able to use that and say to potential clients, या तो B2B या B2C, and say, look, man, I did this for the first time in its entire existence. These 5 agencies, which have existed for a long time, who've never done their own PR, their own B2B PR, are now being featured everywhere. And your brand has been, and then I say, and your brand has been around for a while. So trust me when I say I can do a good job with it. And I know the approach to win over these particular audiences. Because आजकल क्या हो रहा है कि a lot of companies are coming to me and coming to my boss, and then he passes the lead on to me to say, okay, we're trying to boost our export efforts. We're trying to tap into the North America market or Australia or New Zealand or whatever we're trying to go into. And we need the PR in those markets, right? Getting your press release published in pro-Pakistani, the Australian importer does not read pro-Pakistani, in case you didn't know. Someone had to say this out loud. Rocket science nahi. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Some people just, they just have to be told. Yeah, they can Google Analytics report. Jo ye nahi pad rahe. Anyway.
Are they open to being told, though?
Yeah, but there's a way of going about it. Like, everyone's different. Or maybe they've been primed by my boss, who's really good at this diplomatic way of talking, which I clearly do not have. And so he has that diplomatic way of saying, "Ke Babar thoda muh phat hai, to just deal with it and all that." But then having to sit with them and be like, I'm giving an example, but let's say someone is going to, and this is based off a real example, but let's say someone is going to a conference in an IT-oriented... Okay. There's a client of mine who's going to go to a Salesforce conference that's going to take place in San Francisco.
Okay.
Every year, Salesforce does a conference in San Francisco called Dreamforce.
Okay.
I've covered it thrice, so I know what the system is like, what the environment is like. So let's say that conference is going to take place from the 1st of August to the 5th of August. And this is an example. It's not literally happening this year. San Francisco mein ho raha hai, theek hai. We know that it's going to happen from the 1st to 5th. We have that information. What I do is I get in touch with the organizers and I ask them that can we sponsor an email newsletter that you're going to be sending out email newsletters every single week or every single day. Ke, hey, 15 days to the conference. We're gonna have Joe's gonna talk about this and Bobby's gonna talk about this and blah blah agenda. But I was like, can we sponsor the entire newsletter on this particular day? On a particular day. And they're like, okay, fine, here's our charge sheet for the email newsletter. We get that, we pay the amount, we put a hyperlink in there that goes to one of our sites, that allows us to track where that user base is. Once we understand the people who have paid for the $400 to attend Dreamforce, once they've clicked a certain link that we've given them, that goes to a site that they want to go to, but we have captured the tracking data, which is all ethical, by the way.
Of course.
We've got the tracking data, and now we can figure out what websites that they go to. They go to the San Francisco Chronicle, that they go to TechCrunch.com, whatever they go to. Then I get in touch with those publishers, and I say to them that my boss or my client is coming over all the way from Pakistan. Hey, it takes a brown box for you, and you get to call yourself diverse and shit. And he'd like to talk about this topic that is in line with your editorial calendar, which most publishers put out. That person says yes, the interview is done. So when the interview is done, and that person, he gets on stage at that conference, He doesn't have to say, Assalamu alaikum, my name is Ali, or not Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, my name is Ali Khan, and I'm from so-and-so company. He doesn't have to do all of that. The first 5 slides of introducing himself, he doesn't have to do any of that because most people in the audience have read that article from yesterday.
Beautiful.
He's saving himself a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
That presentation's written by me or conceptualized by me and maybe designed by his team and all that. The PR that went out the day before in the publication that they all respect, his white colleagues or the people in the room, they all respect. They're like, he was in TechCrunch the other day. Did you see? He's the same guy from TechCrunch. So they want to go up to him and talk to him now
Yeah.
because of credibility build ho gaya ye. Is tarah ki activities people will understand only after they see the case studies that we've already put out with our own agency.
Sahi.
And I think that's the only approach that works in Pakistan, where you cannot go to people with new ideas. You have to show them the existing idea that's been executed, but a slight tweak on how it's going to be unique to them, which is what I primarily apply. It's a matter of like, because I have this bhas with one of my colleagues all the time, ke hum is tarah se kyun kar rahe hain? I mean, you can either waste time educating these people, or you can play the game.
Or you can play the game, right? And you can't do both,
Can't do both.
unfortunately. So here's the thing. Lots of content creators are now more or less going toe-to-toe with some of the content creation agencies.
Sure.
Going toe-to-toe with some of the
Absolutely.
marketing agencies as well, unfortunately. And because of the proliferation of content creation technologies, they can.
Yeah.
Back in the day, 10 saal pehle, you and I were still around, 4K was a dream. Now it's
Commonplace.
3-4 lakh rupiah,
Yeah.
5 lakh rupiah, whatever, right? How do they approach this monster? Because this is what you've done your whole life,
Yeah.
right? How do they, because if they're doing all of that themselves, I don't know, maybe they can't afford a PR agent, maybe they're not comfortable with a PR agent.
Yeah.
How do they go about securing themselves financially, right? Because
Right.
they also want the advertisements, and
Yeah.
sure, some of them might have good content, some of them might not have huge audiences,
Yeah.
say 70,000-80,000, maybe
Yeah.
a lakh, maybe
Yeah.
3 lakhs,
Yeah.
maybe not 1 million.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone is an Irfan Junejo, right?
Yeah.
Problem is, यहाँ पे everyone gravitates towards Dawn, so everyone gravitates towards Irfan Junejo.
Yeah.
Irfan Junejo के vlog में आना है. अब भाई Irfan Junejo is booked by a certain client.
Yeah.
Muru के पास जाना है. Muru's also booked.
Hmm.
और किसी के पास नहीं जाना है हमें. Treat everyone else like shit.
Yeah.
But like you said,
Yeah.
maybe someone like Momina Munir
Yeah.
or Hamza Ibrahim, maybe
Yeah.
their audiences
Yeah.
are exactly the audiences that you wanted.
Yeah.
How do they go about approaching, making that case?
इसमें तो अब I hope these influencer marketplaces जिसकी मैं पहली बात कर रहा था, namely the ones that I know of. Again, I'm sure there's more, but the ones I know of, they're called Amplified. Amplified is misspelled, by the way. So if you type Amplified, the right spelling, and then write influencer space, you won't find it. It's like the I is a Y. You know how
Hey, man.
Maura Hokkain and all that? I pronounced it Hokkain for a very long time. I didn't know it was Hossein. Anyway, I was one of those people. So
Wait, you're not supposed to say Hokkain?
you're supposed to say Hossein, apparently. I mean, it's Hossein, but you're not supposed to say Hokkain.
Right.
My wife told me this. She kind of looked at me like, dude, what the hell? Like, you're not supposed to say Hokkain. Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
so there's all these influencer platforms that allow you to do what you're talking about intelligently. एक चीज़ है कि let's get Junaid Akram and Irfan Junejo just because. एक चीज़ है get them because our audience matches up. The audience we want to target matches up with the audience that they already have. That's the right approach.
That's the only
The
approach.
funny thing is these agencies जिसकी आप बात कर रहे हैं, they apply that approach to literally everything. They're like, hey, we're putting this ad right after Jio का फला program because उसकी audience is a +60 और हमारा product is for people +60. वहाँ पर audience first planning करते हैं. पता नहीं influencer space में क्या हो जाता है लोगों को कि Mahira's pretty, our product is ugly, and if she holds it, it'll become pretty. We'll give it to her. Oh, bhai, her 80% of our audience is male.
Mahira Khan, no?
I'm giving an example,
yeah.
but like there's all these intelligence tools that can tell you what is the male-female ratio. I'm assuming there's 2 genders. Is the male-female ratio of those influencers, quote unquote influencers. I hate this term influencer,
Yeah.
but they'll tell you that. So like you have a female, they have a product that is you have a product that statistically speaking, I have to say this word all the time. You have a product that statistically speaking is going to be purchased by women. While I say this, I understand that there's a difference between purchasing and using. Okay. My wife is buying the Gillette foam. I'm the one using it. So there's a difference, right? So statistically speaking, there's a product that's going to be purchased by, or let's say just used by women. Somehow you're giving that product to an influencer whose 75% audience is male. You could make the case, if you were me, a publicist, and a spin doctor, you could make the case that we're showing it to we're giving it to a female influencer whose majority audience is male because we want men to be aware of that problem that women have. But again, that's a branding goal. It's not a performance marketing goal. A lot of times these things are influencer marketing is done from the perspective कि अपना code देगी फिर we can click a link and get a discount or get something with it, like a sell oriented. But if you wanted to do the branding thing, then you'd have to start with the thing कि ये branding goal का हिस्सा है, because there's a funnel, right? If you look at any किसी से बात कर लें in the marketing space, they'll tell you there's a funnel called awareness, consideration, intent, blah blah blah. एक चीज़ होती है conversion at the end. You will raise awareness. लोग सोचेंगे अच्छा ये भी चीज़ है, and then they're like you do a couple of activities and people are like I'll think about it, and then there's an intent. You tell them where to buy it from. Then there's something. Then there's something. I don't know the funnel by heart.
Yeah.
People watching are like, "Babar itna अच्छे है, कुछ पता नहीं
इसको भी
exactly
पता ही नहीं है।
funnel में क्या है." लेकिन
एक funnel है।
yeah.
क्यों है funnel?
Well, the funnel is conceptual. Actually, people think the funnel goes from here to here. It actually goes like this.
Right.
Because you're like loon. Sometimes you can go from awareness to conversion in one go. Like प्यास लग रही है. I didn't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, us point of view, say there's all these intelligence platforms that should be used, but people are not using it. I'm going to answer the two questions that you asked simultaneously. So the platforms, if you are in the situation where you have to choose an influencer, use these platforms, which are free to use. The only time they charge you is when you actually choose the influencer or you want to coordinate the campaign through them.
Okay.
Okay? That's the first part. So if you call yourself, if you go out of your way to go on LinkedIn and other places and call yourself a data-driven marketer, but you don't use a data-driven platform to inform you which influencers to go after, you're not a data-driven marketer.
I feel
buddy.
like you're talking about someone in particular.
Someone we know.
किसकी बात कर रहे हैं?
Someone we know. And the second part of your question, which was like if a content creator wants to put themselves out there, but they're not the Fanjanejos of their industry, or yet at least, the best approach is to partner up with a media agency. So this is a worldwide phenomena where you are Geo, you're Dawn, you're whatever, and you go to a media agency such as a Brainchild or Z2C ke jo agencies hain, and you go to them and say that, look, this is our audience, this is what we do, this is our audience, this is our segments of our programming and all that, and we are charging, let's say 1,000. I'm giving example numbers. We're charging 1,000 rupees a minute for ads. Jo nahi hota, example numbers. And then you say to them that we are the principal, you're the agent. When you sell our ad space to someone, we will give you 15% commission,
Okay.
or we'll give you 20% commission, whatever, and we'll reward you depending on अगर करोड़ का होगा तो 15%, अगर 2 crore होगा 20%, and so on and so forth. अभी एक limit तो होगा, लेकिन I'm just giving examples. So that's exactly what influencers or up and coming influencers should do. That being said, some people are uncomfortable with the kickback element of it.
Kickback, but some people are also uncomfortable with the fact that this is a behemoth that you're going to partner with.
Yeah.
What keeps them from taking advantage of you? वहाँ पे,
Sure.
I suppose, legal language is...
Sure, वो आपके ऊपर है ना कि what do you say yes to, what do you say yes not to. ये जो है Kamal Ahmed, who runs Soul Sisters का जो group है,
Yeah.
and she has that show Conversations with Kamal.
Yeah.
When she went to media agencies to fund her show, like to get sponsors for her show, she was met with these tone deaf comments के आप एक काम कर लें, हमारा product table पे रख लें. Oh, bhai, we're talking about the fact that she got beaten by her husband. You want your product present there? Or people saying, again, tone deaf, who've never watched her show or never went through the material or anything like that, कि अच्छा आप एक laundry cleaning segment रख सकती हैं.
Right.
In the middle of a show about okay, she had to run away from home because of one thing or the other. Again, that's the only examples I'm thinking of the top of my head.
Yeah.
But really hard-hitting topics. और आप कह रहे हैं कि और अब हम जाते हैं कि Ariel का blah blah blah. What the such a tone-deaf thing. You can't. And जो भी tone होगा for the watching audience, they're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense in that way.
It destroys her.
I mean,
as a creator, all of it is
absolutely.
gone. Yeah.
I mean, the most contextually relevant thing that would make sense in specific areas would be like if you promoted, I'm giving an example, betterhelp.com as an example, right?
Or Taskin or something.
Exactly. Okay, you're talking about something and then you're like, okay, if you've been through this situation, call lawyer.com and you can resolve this very easily and all the Sharia compliant and all that other stuff. It's a contextual link to what you're trying to sell to the audience.
Sure.
Which you need to push as the creator. You need to say, okay, this doesn't make sense to me. So in the introduction I dropped between you and the other person, the one we were speaking about before the cameras came on.
Do you want to speak about it?
You can say it.
Yeah, Red Bull wale.
Red Bull, yeah.
हाँ.
उसमें क्या था? मैंने कहा कि this guy is fit. He drinks your drink.
I do drink it.
And he actually enjoys your drink and he's been doing it for a while. I mean, हाँ, moon landing जितना आप fake कर लें, लेकिन there's something called backdated videos. You can still look at the videos from 2000 and however long you've been doing this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so he's genuinely a fan. If you bring him on board, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And on top of the fact, he went from whatever he looked at to being really, really fit.
Yeah.
So you can actually use that to your advantage at one
Yeah.
way or the other, because there's a misconception in people's minds. इसमें चीनी है तो it makes you fat. No, bhai, if you overdrink it. If you overdrink and eat in a calorie surplus.
Yeah, exactly.
So like,
Exactly that.
It's that same thing when people say कि नहीं उसको तो फना को तो कोविड वैक्सीन लग गया था दूसरे दिन मर गया. Oh भाई, was he obese? उसका hypertension था. Was he smoking constantly? ये सवाल नहीं पूछने.
नहीं.
This is something that's happening right now that bothers the bejesus out of me. कि people are like कि बातों बातों में हाँ मेरी फना की दोस्त की अम्मी को कोविड हो गया. Everyone's talking about the how. No one's talking about how it happened. Oh, भाई आप किटी पार्टी पे गई थी, किसी की शादी पे गई थी. नहीं, no one's talking about the root cause. Root cause हराम है. Root cause की हम बात नहीं कर सकते हैं because it is a way of victim blaming. I'm not blaming the victim. I'm doing a reverse root cause analysis. I'm trying to reverse engineer, figure out what did she do wrong, and that's on her.
Yeah.
Was there a gun held to your head that you had to go to that shadi without a mask, without any protections? You know you can Photoshop yourself into that picture. FYI. There needs to be a business. All these OCR people, they have to come up with a business where I can put on the sherwani, stand like this, get a picture taken, and you can Photoshop me in that bridal का जो setup होता है, and be like कि Babar was there, and I'd be like यार मैं तो आया था, आपके photographer ने picture नहीं ली, लेकिन मेरे बीवी के phone पे है, ये देख लो, मैं आया था, सर आप इतने गुस्से क्यों हो रहे हैं, मैं तो था वहाँ पर, अब lighting and all पे मसला होगा, लेकिन anyway, there's a way around these things, right? Anyway, क्या करें? Anyway, this thing that people are doing these days, अभी तक हो रहा है ना कि आप कितना कह दें कि मास्क पहनो, no one's listening. कितना कह दें social distancing, no one's listening.
नहीं, कितना 20% पे कराची की positivity rate.
जी.
26 पे. It really bothers me for all the people who are here, you know, friends, colleagues, what have you.
जी.
No one knows what to make of it, head or tails, right? We're going back into a lockdown and
ignorant है ना, like किसी के साथ बैठ जाऊं, अभी करीम ड्राइवर्स तो पहन लेते हैं, लेकिन पीपल लाइक कि सर सब बहाना है. अच्छा बहाना है?
किस चीज़ का बहाना भाई?
कोविड का बहाना. ठीक है, मैंने कहा ये जो 5 लाख लोग जो अभी मरे हैं ये जिन थे क्या 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 बहाना है? एंड ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट बहाना है, ठीक है काम करें, आई विल फिजिकली पे यू मनी टू गो टू सिविल हॉस्पिटल, find the bed where a person is clearly dying of COVID. They go to the COVID ward, right? Go to the ward where a person is clearly dying and find the person who's physically dying. But the condition is his son who is standing there, or whoever is standing there, has to be this gigantic person who looked like they could break you in half, like Bane broke Batman, right? And I need you to say in front of them कि ये आपके बाबा बहाना कर रहे हैं.
बहाना कर रहे हैं
जो थप्पड़ आपको लगेगा ना, your grandchildren remember that थप्पड़ for the rest of their life, because this is the reality. ये lockdown क्यों आता है? Because when hospitals are overburdened, then the lockdown comes. We're just in this cycle of open, close, open, close, open, close.
That's it.
कोई penalty आप नहीं रख रहे हैं. I believe the advertising industry, maybe advertising industry, but the people who call themselves design thinkers and these design-oriented people.
The fuck is a design thinker, dude?
It's a whole,
I wanna
it's
be
a whole science.
Yeah, I want to be a design thinker.
And these are people who solve problems. Think with. क्या है यार? It's such a simple concept, but I think it's the way they phrase it is a little complex. But they basically say that we solve human problems by looking at the human behavior and making a fix according to what people will most likely by their behavior gravitate towards. Again, it's a whole science. I don't want to butcher it or anything like that. Like, Ariba and I even wrote an article about it, and we're like, most of the time we're like, kya chip hai?
Design thinking.
Yeah, it sounds fancy, but the thing is, it's one of those things where like,
it's a buzzword.
if you're USAID or the Commonwealth Office or something Gora in that space, and you have these tenders that go out, you put out this thing, इसमें लिखा हुआ है कि we need design thinkers. So people who have done these design degrees, like Ulrez Khan and other people, they come up and they say, okay, hey, we offer this thing called design thinking, even though it's probably the same thing as what you're already doing before. As an example, someone says, okay, I went to someone's house recently, and the Google map was muscle strength and fitness. And I was like, muscle भी मिल रहा है, strength भी मिल रही है, fitness भी हो रही है.
मिल रही है, सब
एक ही जगह पे.
एक ही घर में.
I thought you only could get one or not the other.
Interesting.
I was like, so in the same vein, like these design thinkers, in a way, this was called something else once upon a time. It was called anthropological research.
Oh,
yeah,
that old thing.
But the new lingo is design thinking.
Design thinking.
Yeah. So
have you ever heard George Carlin ka bit about
advertising?
No, post-traumatic stress disorder.
No, I'm not.
So it's like when we went to war, 1960s, we got shell-shocked.
Yeah.
Good, powerful, potent shell shock. Then it resorted to battle fatigue. Battle fatigue. Right, battle fatigue. And now it's post-traumatic stress disorder. No feeling. It's cold. Everything's gone. That's what this is, right? From anthropology to design.
Design thinking. It sounds fancy.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're, I don't know, like just to look at the reverse engineering. I think reverse engineering probably is a real thing.
That makes sense,
There's the technology, you're figuring out how it exactly
Yeah.
came to be or what the origin of it was, or at least how to replicate it for,
Sure.
for the most part.
Sure.
But the design thinking idea, again, anyone who's watching a design thinker is now going on my Twitter and flagging me. So it's basically ये है कि that's probably a field, if we talk about anthropological research as well, that's probably a field that can figure out what is the trigger, what is the incentive, or what's the punishment or the reward or whatever we have to do that'll make people want to wear the masks or make people want to social distance.
Right.
Because there has to be a profession in this entire country that can figure out what psychology jis tarah hota hai. There has to be a profession that can figure out ke, what is stopping people from wearing the masks and social distancing in the first place, and what can we do to change. As an example, if I was running the country, and I even said this to Rehan in 2020 जब 2020 में जब March में जब pandemic was when COVID was called a pandemic, right, by the WHO. I remember calling up Rehan, and this is like, again, a full year before he hired me. And I was like, Rehan, this is the perfect opportunity to get all your banking clients to put out ads. Actually, just get in touch with the Bankers Association of Pakistan. It's called Institute of Bankers Pakistan. It's kuch naam hai. I was like, get them all together, put them in the room with social distancing.
Of course.
Put them all in a room and make them run campaigns that say that bank noto mein se coronavirus transfer ho sakta hai. Because this is the best time to get people to download your apps, and this is the best time to get digital banking going. And from the point I said it to the point it actually got pulled off to a certain extent, I think 3-4 months went by. So they kind of missed the boat. But I think that was more to do with the clients being like a analysis paralysis than it was him more than anything else. Lekin that was the perfect time. So my version of the same thing would be ke, put out a little bit of misinformation कि अगर आप vaccine नहीं लगाएंगे या mask नहीं पहनेंगे तो आपका your boys won't get up. Right? And because this is the same reason people don't take the polio vaccine.
What?
The polio vaccine.
Impotency?
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
They were like, उनको आपको ED हो जाएगा. We're like, this is all that matters to you. Your son can't stand up. But what matters to you is that he's in a wheelchair, but he can get married. That's what all that matters to you. Or he can't walk again. He's on someone else's. How many wheelchair ramps do you see in Pakistan?
Allah Rahim
And that's
Kare.
what you want your son to go through. Really.
Bas.
So anyway, मतलब लोग कहते हैं नहीं उनका driveway तो है ना मैंने कहा yeah the driveway for the car there's a difference between why it was made. The intent of making that ramp was the ramp itself. Anyway, so I would do that. Like I don't mind going to jail for the rest of my life if I put out this thing that made people stop like मतलब घुस के अब किसी भी ये दही की दुकान पे चले जाएं लोग चिपक के खड़े हुए हैं
The concept of personal space is
like it's
non-existent, yeah.
glued together. And the funniest part about I live in Islamabad primarily. The funniest part about all this is went to the vaccine center. Log chipak ke khare huए to wait for the vaccine.
Yeah.
I was like, take a picture of this moment because it's like I'm creating the problem that I'm here to solve. So and no masks. People are going without a mask and chipak ke khare huए to get the vaccine. I'm like, amazing. Good job. जब आपका COVID का case आएगा, then you conveniently blame the vaccine for not
course.
working.
Or the government.
Because, or the
anyone
government,
else.
because it's not your behavior.
No.
It's not the fact that after you got the vaccine, you pulled the mask off, went out and ate the most disgusting thing you could possibly eat and drank the most disgusting thing you can possibly drink that will shoot up your hypertension, that will shoot up your diabetes, do God knows what else, and you will not work out because working out is haram. Or take care of yourself, or calorie deficit, or not have the 700 laddus that you have to eat constantly.
You have
Uske
to have
बगैर
the
तो,
laddus.
हाँ,
Have to have
हर
laddus.
चीज़ पे लड्डू. That's the thing I find really funny. My wife and I went to one of her one of her mamu's house recently, and it was 2 cars going. Like my brother-in-law was in the car in front, and my wife and I were in the car behind. And we were like, okay, we were following them for security reasons and all that. And they're like, नहीं हमें brother commercial जाना कुछ pick करना है. And I was like, क्या pick करना होगा? Literally, my head was like pool and all that stuff. कोई मिठाई pick करनी थी.
Sorry.
मैंने कहा, why can't we have a culture where I go to someone's house and be like, here's a salad bowl? And like, here's a fruit bowl or whatever, right?
एक और बात है ना, I think one of the worst things you can do if you go to visit someone is tell them you don't want to eat. They take it
yeah.
as an affront.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah,
proper
yeah.
offensive.
Yeah,
If I come to your house and you're like, oh, so what are you going to have? I'm like, nothing. You're just like, what the fuck? It's like that. Huh?
तुम क्या समझते हो अपने आप को?
Yes, this
तुम ये
again?
कहना चाह रहे हो कि मेरी कोई worth नहीं है? Like you're eating once a day because of a condition.
Yeah.
And I did that last year, not for a condition, but because of other sort of psychological reasons.
Okay, let him get it.
And people got very offended. And I'm like, I'm trying to help myself in a way. And the thing is, you're probably a nice guy. I'm not a nice person.
Oh.
I identify very strongly with Thanos. Like Thanos is my
Good.
Thanos is my spirit animal.
Great.
When he did what he did in the movie, I was like, yes.
Yes.
And when he died in the end, I was like, no.
Oh no.
Ripping the universe to shreds, not so much what I'm all about, but the first plan was really nice. Mazi ki baat hai, you know, in that movie, they're like talking about the fact that 5 years later, there's whales in the Thames, there's like pollution khatam ho gaya, 40 things got better.
Yeah.
No one talks about all that. They're
Yeah.
like, nahi, log mar gaya. I'm like, fine. You know, Spider-Man mar gaya. Kya, kitna barati hai? Anyway.
Spider-Man.
But like even here, when COVID and all was going down, people were talking about the fact that you can finally see those mountains, the roads are clear, no congestion and all that. No one focusing on all that. Hopefully people learn from COVID and they can be more flexible. That's the good thing about, again, I'm bringing it up over and over again, but like this is the good thing about Rehan's company, where there's a lady who's in the company. She's been with the company for like 10 years. Her
Wow,
name is
mashallah.
Fizza. She I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, I mean I wrote the press release. How can I not remember this? But like I can't remember the exact details. But last year in October, she and her husband moved to Saudi Arabia. And if she worked at any other agency, it'd be like, oh, you're leaving the country, so you're basically resigning. Khud Hafiz, right? Even though 10 years. I don't know how they made this happen. I'm pretty sure there's a time difference. Mujhe yaad nahi aa raha exact time difference, but I don't know how this made this happen. But I don't know who initiated this. But apparently she was told that just because you're relocating doesn't mean you're fired.
God
You can just work remotely. And not only is she working remotely, but she was recently promoted.
Oh wow, dude.
And when I found out that she was promoted while working remotely, I was like, are you kidding me?
But that's beautiful, right?
It is beautiful, but at the same time, I was like, it was the same thing as like, I feel like I'm being pranked. Are you kidding me? Because I was literally like, is this a real promotion or is it like a vanity promotion? Like,
SA
is this just a
promotion.
title change? Or they're like, no, she's got like a 40% raise.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like,
बंदा बैठा हुआ यार क्या हो क्या रहा है
are
यहाँ
you sure
पे?
you're a Pakistani company?
Apparently not.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, sure you're Pakistani deep down inside. Alif Be Bolo. Like, you know, like, I was like, I have to figure it out whether these people are real or not.
Mashallah, but that's beautiful.
That was amazing for me. I mean, इस तरह की काफ़ी चीज़ें which I hope other companies adopt, because again, ये वो Coke story वाली बात है again. When more, because you know this thing happened in a way that they just put out an email. HR वाले side से email आई थी that said that, oh, by the way, Fizz has been promoted.
Okay.
It was like a by the way thing. I was the one who reached out and said, are you guys serious? And I had all this whole conversation with our bosses and all that. And they're like, yeah. Like, we need to make this a big deal. You need to talk about this. This is not a small thing.
No.
It's not a female became the head of whatever the department. It's not that. A person working remotely in another country, in another time zone, you guys said, no, there's two things. No. This is a woman, worked remotely, did her job, did a good job, such a good job, she got promoted while working remotely. So you working in the country remotely, aapka kya excuse?
No, but
Dude.
that's one thing. But also, women might resonate so deeply with
Yes.
that because so many women are required to move
Yes.
because of their husbands or what
Yes.
have you. They're
Yeah.
required to relocate.
Yeah.
And if that's not even an excuse,
Yeah.
and the company still,
Yeah.
dude, lots
Yeah.
of companies should emulate.
Huh.
At the very least.
Understanding that not every profession can tolerate that. I mean, doctors, for example, and all that.
Of course.
Lekin telemedicine is a thing. I'm just saying, but like not every single surgeon, you can do surgeon remotely. Last I checked, maybe you can. Not sure. Astral projection, maybe.
हाँ, हो सकता है,
I don't know if that's the thing yet.
क्या हो सकता है?
But like that for me, when I got a little I got a little bit of resistance, not a lot. I mean, by that time, people were like, Babar knows what he's doing. But the resistance that I did get from the inside the company, why is this a big deal? Why would you use our, why would you waste your time on this and all that? I was like, look, man, we have to send a message to the industry, not for us. It's the same thing I told Seth. When I dropped the introduction for Seth, he reached out and he's like, why would I do that? And what would I talk about and all that? And I was like, Seth, and I told Rehan the same thing. And I tell this to everyone. I was like, it's not about you. You need to go on that show and tell them your story so that someone else feels like, I can do it.
The world's not ending.
Whatever is happening with me, I can get up.
Yes.
I'm on the floor. There's a piece of rubble on my back, and I can push myself back off. Once a person sees that, they can push anything off themselves. It's the same thing I tell Rehan. I'm like, you have to do this interview. It's not about boosting your own profile. People have to see what you went through, and then they go like, oh my God, he went through that. Like a boulder hit him in the face while pebbles are hitting me in the stomach, and I'm complaining. It's not about that. I'm not trying to minimize the pebbles hitting you in the stomach. I'm saying
No,
that
no, no.
it could be much worse, and you can actually bounce back from this. So it's the same thing with this Fizza thing. I was like, it's not about pushing the fact that she got promoted. She knows the stakeholders that matter to her the most, which are her husband, her family, her colleagues, and her clients. They all knew from that email newsletter jo gaya tha. They knew, and they were like, hey, good job. I needed to go out there because I need to show the rest of the industry that this is possible.
And it can be
that
done.
That you don't have to fire your female employees once they get married, once they have to relocate, once they have to do this and that, because this person did it, and nothing, the house didn't burn down.
No.
Which is what people think is going to happen. And then also for the rest of the people who are working remotely within the country, who are doing a shit job, because I meet people all the time who are like, hey, I'm giving example names. I hope this is not the name of someone in the company, but like, okay, I'll just pick up a Gora name. George in our company. I'm sure we don't have an employee named George.
Hopefully.
But like, they're like George, who's working remotely for the last 3 months. His performance has dropped down.
Yeah.
Now they can be like Fizza, who's outside the country in another time zone, got the job done, and she made time for the job despite being a wife, possibly a mom, not really sure, but like being a
Fucking
wife in a
George.
company time zone, she got the job done. Say, George, what
Fucking
excuse do you have?
Pick up your
Again,
game,
George कह सकता है मैं पाकिस्तान में रहता मेरी बिजली नहीं थी and all that. ठीक है तो बता देते हैं.
तो बता
You don't have 40 other ways to get in touch with your boss and say बिजली चली गई and all that.
Yeah.
आपके पास फोन नेटफ्लिक्स के लिए टाइम है आपके पास ये 2 मिनट नहीं निकाल सकते थे ना for
Right.
this. But I meet people all the time who are like कि यार remote नहीं चल रहा because of A, B and C reason. And I'm like why? Because ये हो गया था. I'm like that guy's just being. I take it as कि like how COVID and the anti-vaxxer movement we have it like I never thought Pakistan would have an anti-vaxxer movement. While knowing fully well that we have an anti-polio movement, I never made the connection in my head ever till this happened. I never made the connection people will be against the vaccine.
Because it's so intuitive to just get it.
Yeah, because I've always heard anti-vaxxer from the US context.
Yeah.
And a Gora context, right?
Yeah.
Okay, people are not taking this pill because they want to do snake oil or whatever they want to rub on their bodies, and that's good. But when this COVID thing happened, I was like, Pakistan may be anti-vaxxers. We have something in common
So cool.
with the West. But like for me, it was. Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. Lekin, I genuinely lost my train of thought.
It's all right, man. It happens.
Huh.
It happens. You were talking about Fizza, and you're talking about George. George has ABC reasons for for the remote thing not working out. And then you were talking about how you could, you still have time for Netflix and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with the COVID situation, and then you were talking about the COVID situation, the anti-vaxxer movement.
I completely forgot.
अब अगर नहीं मिल रहा तो फिर
I
वापस नहीं
genuinely
आएगा.
don't remember where I was going to go with that, but I think it was something profound. Let's just assume it was something profound.
Something profound. Something profound.
But इसमें ये था कि I was thinking to myself कि I genuinely forgot what I was thinking.
It's okay, dude.
I
Happens.
don't know why I lost my.
Happens.
You know what happened? I went ADHD mode. I started counting the number of buttons on the wall. Completely lost what I was
It's like
gonna
यार
say.
ये बहुत सारे बटन हैं यहाँ पे. इससे बटन क्यों है? ये क्या करते हैं?
हाँ, exactly.
बटन का कोई फंक्शन है? नहीं
हाँ.
फंक्शन कोई भी.
ये एक चीज़ है लेकिन one of the things that like the safe example and all the day after he did the interview he sent me such a beautiful message. I had tears in my eyes at the end of it, but I was like one of my things that I'm very stubborn about in my life is मैं कहता हूँ लोगों को कि people talk about regrets and all that, and like I know for a fact that hard times make strong men. I know that going through for example, my parents divorced under circumstances that have led me to think to myself that I can either be him or I can be a better version of myself. Like, ek cheez hoti hai na, there's a phrase that's in Persian but translated in English is loosely basically means that men either spend their lives making up for their father's mistakes or being like them. Something to that effect. I'm butchering it slightly. Lekin
सही
aisa kuch
है,
hota
makes
hai.
sense.
But I often say to myself, okay, I understand all those things, but I really wish I could have had a normal life.
Oh yeah, dude, absolutely. Sure.
While knowing all of that.
Yeah.
While keeping in mind that these are the things that made me who I am.
Yeah.
As an example, जब कोई कहता है ना कि आप ये क्यों करते हैं? And like because when I was growing up in Pakistan and I didn't have a network here, I didn't have pre-established friendships here and all that. मुझे कोई internship करना होता था, just scrape my way through anything. क्योंकि स्कूल की requirement होती थी आपको internship करना है. I didn't have anyone I could turn to, and so I've come to a point where I want to be that person to other people. That being said, as good as it sounds, I'm the person, I'm responsible for a couple of people having jobs and internships and things of that nature. I wish I didn't have to go through all that.
No, of course.
I wish I could have done both.
I agree.
It would have been nice, like, if someone says to me, na, ke, if you had not gone through all of that, you wouldn't be the person you are today. I'm like, that's great. Could I have been less of the person I am today, but have not had all that hardship and struggle? Because that really messed me up, and I know how messed up I am in a certain way because of all that.
I say it's the ratio, right? So you could have been not this person at all.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have gone through that.
Yeah,
Ho
yeah.
sakta tha.
Yeah, I recognize that.
Yeah,
But at the same time, like, but it was a pretty shitty thing to go through.
Yeah, dekho, you can't ever. That's the thing, na? People want to think about the grass is green and all those things, and that's a beautiful thing. You can never ever minimize the trauma that you've been through.
Yeah.
I think it's not a helpful exercise at all to try.
No.
Even you have to give it its time.
No.
You obviously have to pick up and move on, and you have to hold yourself and hug yourself when you need it, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, you can't ever take away from it, and you can't let anyone else. So obviously there's people who have been oppressed,
No.
right? So the oppressors don't get to tell you when to move on,
Yeah.
right? There's other people who've just gone through traumatic incidents generally. No one gets to tell you how to feel about it. We get to tell you that you're important,
Yeah.
that you're needed here,
Yeah.
and that you want to do a certain thing, or we need you to do certain things, and that you need to do certain things, and whatever else is required of you. But no one gets to tell you, Kiya, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Not
exactly.
so. What the fuck does that mean? Of course,
Exactly.
it's bad for me.
But I was recently speaking to a next colleague of mine, and she was telling me about something that's happening in her home.
Allah Rahim kare.
And I was able to give her a piece of advice that she later said that was very helpful, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, just out of curiosity, how do you know how to deal with that, psychotic parental issue that I was dealing with? And I was like, unfortunately, because mere saath bhi blah, blah, blah. She was like, oh, I'm so grateful that I have you in my life to all that. And she had the call. I was like, I really wish I didn't have to go through that. Like, on the one hand, I understand. I mean, I think you have an out-of-body experience.
Sure.
You're like, I understand that if I had not gone through that, just that I'm not comparing myself at all to Abdul Sattar Eidi, but he went through some things and that's what led him to do what he did. I've been through some things, and then as a result of that, I try to, and this is a saying by a Pakistani lady, I'm forgetting her name. Actually, I'll pull it up because I don't want to butcher it.
Okay. There's no internet here, like, in good luck.
Good luck.
But what you were saying, that's what metacognition is, na? You can entertain both those thoughts.
Let me see. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Aisha Siddiqui. She said the words, be the person you needed when you were younger.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I try to do, but at the same time, really wish that person was around.
But Babar, exactly, but that's metacognition, no? Where you think, all right, so obviously this felt horrible, and so this was horrible, but also I am this person. Those things can coexist. That's what we are as human beings.
Exactly.
जो हम अभी थोड़ी देर पहले बात कर रहे थे about dichotomies and about blacks and whites.
Yeah.
No one's black and no one's white.
Yeah.
We're all just a shade of gray, and we don't even know which shade of gray is good. We know hurting people is bad, so then stop people from hurting people. Don't, tell me why. First stop, and then we can talk about
because
why.
उसमें ये भी चीज़ होती है ना कि I'm trying, as much as I recognize that struggle is what you make you who you are and all that stuff. ये भी चीज़ होती है ना कि as we were talking before with identity politics and things of that nature, there's a group of people in this world actually who cannot tolerate the idea that you have two opposing ideas simultaneously in your head. So that's what I have right now. I understand that I'm a certain person to some people that they can rely on and turn to and things of that nature, which is one of the most fulfilling things that I have going on for me right now. Like if someone says, "Kya, or you identify as a journalist and all that," I'm like, I'm someone who used whatever extra surplus I had to give it to someone else. That's literally all that it is. I just don't have a thing in me कि मुझे करोड़ कमाने हैं. If I have a little bit above the number I have in my head, I'll give it away, whether that's monetary or that's in the form of contacts.
Inshallah.
As an example, there's a fellow, and credit to the people I'm referring to, but like, as a result of my journalism work, advertising journalism work specifically, built up some relationships with the people in the industry that would not necessarily through their own fault, have ever spoken to me before in any other context. Like if I was working in an agency, I would not have ever spoken to or had the need to speak to someone named Asim Naqvi who runs Ogilvy in Pakistan, which is a creative agency in Pakistan. It's one of the biggest, one of the best ones. And because of my advertising journalism work and having reached out to him for like comments and him being so sweet and so nice and so like accommodating and all that, built a relationship with him that's an understanding that all I do is cover the industry. If you can share information with me or you can point me in the right direction, that'd be great. And coming to a point where, like, let's say right now it's 2021. In 2005, when I came to Pakistan, 17 years ago, had I wanted to do an internship at Ogilvy, I didn't even know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
But today I'm in a position where people reach out to me and they say, yeah, Babar bhai, I'd love to be an intern at Ogilvy. I can drop a connection today. And not only I've got that relationship with Asim today where if I drop an introduction to someone, he won't say, let's do her interview or his interview. He'll hire them as an intern, not as an
Mashallah,
employee.
yeah, yeah.
6-week internship unki ho jayegi. So would have been great to have that person when I was here in 2005. Like my wife even's like, why are you stuck in the past? I'm like, not stuck in the past. I just think to myself that when you have an opportunity to intervene in someone's life, take that opportunity instead of them, because they can go one of two ways, right? They can go the Joker direction,
Exactly
Joaquin
that,
Phoenix,
yeah.
Joker direction, or can go the other direction.
Exactly.
Try to be that fork in the road for them, whatever you can be in that.
Exactly.
At the same time, saying out loud to myself, like it's a sort of a pitiful state of mind. To saying sort of defeatist, थोड़ा मेरा जब दिमाग चले जाता है कि यार I wish कोई
नहीं,
होता
नहीं.
मेरे लिए यार
नहीं, नहीं, नहीं.
because it was such a difficult journey to
But
get
it's
here.
not defeatist, no. It's not.
हाँ.
You're just acknowledging where you've been.
हाँ.
And अगर आप नहीं करोगे,
हाँ.
good luck convincing anyone else to do it for you.
Yeah.
Right? You
हाँ.
have to do it yourself first.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Having said that, what you just said about, being that fork in the road, even then,
हाँ.
you must also protect yourself.
हाँ.
So while you give, and you must give as much as you can, remember to only give as much as you can.
Yeah.
No one else is going to help you out there
Yeah,
either कि यार
yeah.
बात सुनो बाबर खत्म होते जा रहे हो
हाँ.
कोई नहीं
हाँ,
बोलेगा ये भी
हाँ,
आपको
हाँ.
because there's some people who just take
Hmm.
so you always want to think
हाँ,
about
हाँ.
that as well
हाँ, हाँ.
but anyways
Yeah, that I learned the hard way
What?
because I used to go above and beyond for some people, and then I was like,
Right.
okay, now it's like 15 people max.
bro, I think you and I at least can resonate on this that we have a savior complex. It's a thing. Happens.
हाँ.
Happens to people who go through stuff in their childhood.
Yeah.
हो जाता है अल्लाह खैर
हाँ.
करेगा. But having said that, Babar, I think this has been beautiful. It was wonderful having you on, and I'm so glad that you made the time. This is a short trip. This is not a
Ji.
long trip. But I'm so glad that you made the time. Whenever you're in town again, let's do this again.
Ji.
Right? Gee. and any final thoughts, and then also plug to आप कर देना उसके बाद, लेकिन any final thoughts that you would like to share?
Just be the person you needed when you were younger. Try to give back. It's not hard. If you're part of any kind of industry, re-educate yourself constantly. I keep getting this comment from people all the time कि आप तो फला हैं, so why did you have to take that course? Because the world is changing. It's changing at such a pace that by the time you study whatever the hell you're studying, the world has changed.
Yes.
So continuously educate yourself. Don't think हमने master's कर ली तो you're done for life. Do that obviously on the educational front. Be as giving as you can be, but obviously what Kazi was saying is perfectly apt as well. कि आपकी you have a specific reserve inside you. उससे आगे आप जाएंगे, not only will you become mature, but to get that back, it's going to take a lot more time than you can imagine. And everyone's different. वो जो एक चीज़ होती है ना Maslow's hierarchy, कि पहले ये होगा. Some people start with actualization. Some people start with the below.
Yeah.
And everyone's metric of happiness is different.
Yes.
For someone, it's कि घर बन गया अपना घर है. For some people, it's just everyone shut the fuck up. For a long time, I called myself an introvert, and I still think of myself that way as well. But I think introversion was the most acceptable way of me telling people that's actually you're so annoying, and I hate you so much that instead of saying that I hate you, I have to
just
call
gonna-
myself an introvert, and that's the only acceptable way I can get away from you,
Sure.
or get away from those gatherings with those people who annoy the hell out of me.
Sure.
So, be yourself, I guess. I think be true to yourself as much as you possibly can. Within reason.
Within reason.
Within reason.
Within reason.
Because you have to play with the psyche of the people that you're around, right? And उसके against आप थोड़ा जाएंगे तो लोग आपको बदतमीज बोलेंगे, जो मेरे साथ काफी होता है.
That'll be the nicest thing they'll say to you. Bаттamiz. Twitter.
And if you want to go into the journalism space, which I highly recommend because it helps you understand what is really going on behind the scenes in the world, do something that I recommended to pretty much everyone, which is make a list of every industry in the country from A to Z, from aerospace all the way down to whatever starts with Z.
Okay.
Make a list of which publications cover that and which journalists cover that. I can't think of any. Zoology,
Zebra farming.
Is zoology a thing? I don't know. But like make a list of every publication or channel or whatever that covers that area and the reporters, and I guarantee you'll find a white space. You will find a white space or something that's not being covered. Cover that, become a king in that industry like I did, and leave on a high note. I left on a very Seinfeld type note.
Alhamdulillah.
Covered like 50 very investigative pieces that either exposed white collar criminals or revealed who were the true kings or the true queens of the industry. Do your part. Just the thing I talked about, putting women as front as possible, because no one else was doing it for them and their own companies were not doing it for them. So I was like, agar main kar lunga, kya kaun mar jayega? Like, what's the worst that will happen to me?
No, nothing.
Log thoda accusation kar lenge, koi baat nahi, whatever. Plugs kya? Yeah, Twitter pe I am Babar Khan Javed _ because my old account got killed, so I had to make a new account. Yeah.
Killed.
I got blacklisted or whatever,
Oh,
because
wow.
some people don't like me. It's funny, like investigative journalists go after white collar criminals. So when someone says they don't like me, I immediately know who they identify with. So
Fact, false dichotomy.
well, you know, the defund the police movement jo US mein hai, it's funded by criminal enterprises. So that's something people don't talk about. But anyway, that's the only plug. Twitter, LinkedIn pe, it's Babar Khan Javed. It's the most unique name. I've got Pathan and Urdu speaking in my name. I think that's the only person you'll find.
Yeah.
So it's a pink
T-shirt, yeah.
pink T-shirt. No, pink shalwar kameez pehna hua hai.
Oh, what? Instagram, Facebook?
I don't have an I mean, I have an Instagram, but I'm not active on it. I have a Facebook, but I'm not active on it.
Okay.
The best way to reach me is email, babarkj@gmail.com. Then second best place is LinkedIn. Third best is my Twitter. But that's about it.
That's it.
Gee.
Babar, this has been wonderful, truly. And I hope you continue doing, or continue taking this attitude to whatever you do.
Inshallah.
Allah khair karega, inshallah. Babar Khan Javed, Kazi Akbar. Assalamu alaikum.